Good evening, guys. Good to see you. Huga popped in 718. Okay. And Michi Manalo. Good to see you. African. Good to see you too, my friend. And Lillian, good to see you as well. And Nick Miller, good to see you. How are you doing? I hope your week has been good. Mine has been terrible, but it has been hot. Hey, Chris, good to see you. How are you doing, Chris? My brother, strength and honor. We wait a couple of more minutes and let more people pop in or drop in. Diana, too, good to see you. Yeah, and I have some tea. Hey, Chris, do you want to join me up here? You are always welcome up here, my friend. But anyway, we wait a couple of more minutes and see who's popping in here. 12 in the house. That's awesome. And PV in the house. Good to see you. Okay, no problem, Chris. No problem. Hey, Troy. Good to see you, brother. How are you doing? Hey, PV. Good to see you, brother.
Hey, Shadow. How are you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, wait. Yeah, good.
Already 13 people in the house. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's good. Yep.
Yeah, we have Teresa Jukovic in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Well, Andy. Well, sorry. Brain fart.
Yeah.
Sorry, PV. But it's too hot here. It's hot like crematoria here, so I'm floating away.
Are you getting into the 30s yet, or is it still high 20s?
Yeah, we had 28 today. We will have 30 next week.
Right. Yeah. we've been into 32 this week.
Yep.
Yeah, and yeah, it's not very good when you're not used to it, really, is it? It's, yeah, I prefer the 17s and the 18s at the moment for me.
Oh, this is too much for me.
Yeah, you want to get the air conditioner out.
Yeah, I would bathtub with ice cubes and just lay on top of the ice cubes.
Yeah, just get the fans going. It's not worth getting the air conditioner out, is it? Because a couple of weeks' time, it could be a completely different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
But anyway, the topic is the Black Swan Theory and how to prepare.
Right. Yeah. So, Black Swan Theory. So, I mean, I don't suppose. Well, I would have hoped, people have heard about this and would have had some sort of general conception. Sorry, I just go. So Africano Vu Villager says open camera. Yeah, I'm not going to expose my identity online these days, Africana, because who knows where technology and all this stuff's going to end up down the line. So it shouldn't be about what you look like. It should be about what you produce, your knowledge, your interactiveness, your content, all that sort of stuff. So anyway, I hope you find it interesting and some idea-provoking stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. Anyway, so so Black Swan events.
I put the link to Black Swan, the theory,
right?
Theory in the chat. So it's to the Wikipedia, so it describes it. Yeah,
so generally, if no one can be, if no one's going to look at that link, generally, we're talking about so a true Black Swan event is something that's an event which is rare, extreme, and unpredictable. And you can't foresee events on this sort of scale, and it could be a whole multitude of things. We'll probably delve into them in a bit. But for example, let's talk about some examples. So a classic one that everyone should know about and everyone has heard about is 9/11, classic sort of Black Swan event. Thing is, with these sorts of events, once they've happened, and you look back on the event, you think, well, that's pretty obvious. It was obvious at some point down the line it was going to happen. Why didn't anyone else previously in history think of causing an epic, terrorist event like 9/11 and fly planes into buildings? So looking back on these events, it seems fairly obvious, but until it happens, it's not, and it will take people off guard. The scale of these things will be
maximum damage,
shocking, and unpredictable. I mean, certain things like how do you categorize these things? You could say are natural disasters Black Swan events, because we get extreme weather events happening all the time. We get earthquakes happening all the time. We get tsunamis, not too frequently, but they happen pretty frequently on a yearly basis, all the way through to severe ice storms, flooding, etc., etc. So you could say that yes, natural events can fall into the Black Swan category, like the big Fukushima earthquake, for instance, which caused that tsunami, because even though there's monitoring systems in place, that was a massive rare event. We're talking about a magnitude 9 quake, an extreme event, and so far at the moment, earthquakes are pretty unpredictable. So you could say that is a classic, Swan event. Hey, Bob's arrived in the house.
Yeah, Bob he just popped up.
So you could add that Fukushima event into a Black Swan category. You could add something called the Kessler syndrome as a Black Swan event. We haven't seen that happen. It's a theoretical event which was proposed by a scientist called Kessler, and he proposed that if one satellite in orbit crashes into another one, it will create a debris field which will have a knock-on effect, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah.
It's a rare event. It's never happened before on such a scale. It's going to be an extreme event, and you could say it's going to happen at some stage. So that will be classed as, for instance, a Black Swan event.
Hey, Bob.
CR LOPV.
Hey, CR. Good to see you.
And on that sort of scale events, you're going to talk about the knock-on effects are going to be unbelievable. And you could also say other smaller events, which the knock-on effects are going to be unbelievable.
Hey, dear love survival. Good to see you, brother.
Good evening, all.
Your mic's right up there.
Good evening, everybody.
How you doing?
Evening.
Hello, Bob. Hello, PV.
Hey.
Good
So
to see you.
another example of so we're talking about examples of Black Swan events. So we already said sort of 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
the Fukushima earthquake, and so on.
Yeah.
Another lesser known one that doesn't immediately spring to mind, which had a huge impact, was rare and extreme. Was the Arab Spring, and that all that all started with some market trader in the Middle East, I believe, and the impact of that one market trader set herself on fire, and it escalated from there. That snowballed into a countrywide SHTF overthrow type of event, and it cross-bordered into loads of other Arab countries. So that's another sort of Black Swan event. So these sorts of things. It's the events that cause massive surprise as well. Oh, who would have thought that an asteroid coming in? Yes, we can predict some. Yes, we can see the ones that are coming our way, but the ones that blindside us coming from the other side of the sun, and we get literally 12 to 24 hours notice. Depending on the size of it, it's going to be a massive black swan type event. So the key thing is, what do we do about it, really? How do we prep for it? What do we do about it? How do we overcome it? And how do we continue,
Yeah, in my area, Seattle area, Mount Rainier, if that
Right.
explodes, it exploded 1,000 years ago was the last time. And every human being and every living organism in the lower valleys, when the lahar hit, everything's dead. Everything. A volcano is the most destructive force on the earth. And I'll give you an indication that some of the stuff I prep for is like that rucksack on my wall right there. That was my rucksack when I was in the Air Force. And that is full of cooking equipment, etc. I've got a couple more things. I can just throw it in the car, weapon included, and out of here. And if I get stuck in traffic, I'm jumping out of the car, leave it, and run for my life for the high ground, because otherwise you will not survive a lahar. You won't. It's
like Cascadia as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be such a, like I say, it's a rare event. It's going to be an extreme event, pretty unpredictable because an earthquake orientated thing. And who would have thought it? They happen every 500 years or whatever it is, and we haven't had one for 3,000 odd years, so it's going to happen at some point, sort of thing.
I do
Verna, good to see you.
I do got to give credit to the state of Washington and the different counties, because we have a lahar warning system with Claxtons, and every Monday at about noon, the first Monday of each month, the system goes off and they shout out instructions, and plus all the schools once or twice a year they have an evacuation drill for that. And it's not in the school buses. It's where the kids get on the road and they hike to the higher ground. And the kids that are handicapped, the other kids push them in the wheelchairs and all that. They do it frequently, and because there is a real threat of that here. The U.S. Geological Service or Volcanic Service say they've been putting out recent warnings that there are tremors, a series of tremors in Mount Rainier. It's still an active volcano, but we are warned ahead of time, and anyone with a thinking mind will have a rucksack full of something and plan on walking, because traffic will come to a stop.
Don't wait to evac until it's too late.
No, don't wait.
You have no chance.
None.
Don't wait another minute or 1 other 30 minutes. You don't have the time.
Go. All I got to do is throw something in my car, and we get about an hour, a minimum 1 hour warning because as soon as the mountain explodes, it'll take about an hour for all those glacier water and snow to hit my area. And so, and also I just plan on whatever I throw in the car, I leave it behind, because people get scared and they do stupid things. They stop their car and panic, you know. So that's part of my plan also. Well, we've also, for my whole family, everyone has got a rally point for that. You know.
Welcome, Marianne. Good to see you.
See, the danger of the danger of things like the Black Swan event, because it's an unpredictable event and stuff. You get this normalcy bias thing come into it, which we've talked about before. And, people are completely just taken off guard, shocked, etc., etc. But like I say, looking back on it, it's these sort of things are predictable. They're going to happen at some point. And I think the key, you know, it's good to hear that the state has got some sort of warning system in place. No doubt they've got a plan in place as well. And only, you know, the people who switched on, who are taking this thing seriously, are got some sort of plan in place to get out, you know, with some sort of gear like yourself.
Yeah.
You know, act on it, as opposed to just sit there like a lemon waiting for the TV or someone to tell them what to do, and it's too late. You know, you're in with the rest of the traffic jammers.
Yeah, it's also, well, they're ping all the cell phones, you know, Lahar warning and a Claxton with instructions being out for the public. But yeah, as soon as one of those warnings goes off, I'm out of here, dude. You know, to hell with everything. Leave it behind. But
I think the cell phone warning system, the emergency alerts, is a massive game changer.
Big time.
For those who actually act on it, you know, not look at it stunned and think, oh, well, you know, what do we do now? Too late. You know, you're literally counting down the clock. Yes, I mean, I think the key to all these sorts of events, you know, the stuff that take you off guard, these extreme, rare, unpredictable sort of things, is being able to accept the, you know, the unknown, and sort of train yourself, have some sort of training regime to cater for the generic things, and to adapt quickly when something does happen that's out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Our plan for my family is, which I've talked to people in the supermarket, coffee shop, and different, what are you going to do when it happens? That is a topic that we talk about in this area.
Yeah.
Most people want to go this direction, and that's fine. If that's where you want to go, I'm going to go in another direction that's going to lead us to SeaTac Airport and Puget Sound. Because Puget Sound, if you got to go down a steep hill to get to the water, but which we can do, there they can send in the Navy, the Coast Guard ships for resupply and evacuate. Same with SeaTac Airport. We can all. An airport is internationally a safe place. You know, once you get on airport property, you're almost home. You know, but I bring that up to some of my people around this area. We're not going to go that way. We're going to go this way, because the Navy and the Coast Guard can't evacuate and bring in resupply by sea, or the airport by air. You know, but me being the foolish man, I'm prepared.
Well, it's better to be prepared than not be prepared.
Yeah,
it's the problem with preparedness all over, isn't it? People cannot see the benefits until they need the gear.
Correct. Yes.
And it's one of those things that are just left behind the wayside because it's too easy to leave. You know, it's too easy not to prepare. It's too easy to just think, you know, it's not going to happen, etc., etc. And
it's easy to live in their own bubble and nothing happens to me.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, Shadow. That's how a lot of people live. They really do. Yeah.
It's a massive failing. But you know, I mean, that sort of thing is a known threat. How do you deal with something that's not known, that's like a bolt out of the blue event, a bolt out of the blue attack, and so on, so on? You know, so people have got to, you know, and we said this many times before, really. I mean, you can focus on specific type of events if it's a known threat, but all the other threats, you know, they all come with sort of generic fallout results. So as long as you've got a sort of generic set of preps, a generic plan, you can cater for quite a lot of events. And if you are,
hey Judith, good to see you.
Also if you're adopt some sort of basic training plan, you know, it sounds elaborate to other people out there, but you know, basic first aid, basic navigation, etc., then you can cope with a lot of things. I think with something like a Black Swan event, which is just completely unexpected, no one's ever sort of really heard of or anticipated.
Hey Norfolk, UK Prepper, good to see you.
Is excuse me, is to be, you know, coin the phrase adapt, improvise, overcome. You've literally got to be flexible, because it's like having a multi-tool for a DIY task that you're not going to know what's coming up for. You know, you can handle most situations, and you can get away with things with a multi-tool. You literally got to be flexible, get on and off the bus sort of mentality, you know.
Yeah, I agree. You've got to be mentally and physically flexible to be able to get an assessment of the situation and then react. Yeah,
exactly. And even, you know, even with events that someone's prepared for, they've got, you know, food, water, etc. When that event that they're specifically prepared for does happen, they're still in a state of sort of shock, because they haven't mentally prepared, and it's, you know, it's an out of the ordinary situation which you can't get away with just having stuff. You need that flexibility. But yeah, you know, like we said before, food, water, power, security, cash, batteries, and you could keep going, you know. And I think, you know, quite an important factor is because you never know what preps you're going to lose, what you're going to come across.
Yeah,
training, skills, knowledge.
Like PV was in the military, so was Shadow, so was I, and I went through leadership school in the Air Force.
Yeah,
that's vital in a situation like that. You've got to have one person who is level thinking, and is not abusive, but who can really present yourself as in charge and be able to delegate to other people.
Yeah,
and that's kind of, that takes a long time to learn how to do that. I learned a lot of that being a crew boss on the airplanes at Boeing. I learned a lot of that, how to delegate instructions to other people.
Yeah, it's too. I've done that before. It's too easy to, you know, if you're the person who knows everything and everyone looks up to you, etc., it's too easy to just do everything and get involved in everything.
Yeah,
you got to sleep some point, and you can't effectively manage something that's falling apart around you. You can't keep the plate spinning if you're doing it all. You know, you definitely got to delegate and keep people informed as well.
Yeah, it's I had a lot of experience being a team lead. It's easier when you're in a military situation, which none of us are anymore. We're already done with our military service. We're done, because you can just look at another guy and go, take care of this, take care of that, take care, and they'll follow their orders. Yep. Any questions? Answer their questions. Break. Go get it done. You know, when I was in leadership at Boeing, it was far different. Oh my God!
It's total different from the Air Force and Boeing.
Yes, it is.
Their leadership is different. In the Air Force, you have a certain way you need to behave and in your manner. But when you come to Boeing, which is a civilian company, you can't be an Air Force captain and shouting order to people. You can't do that. That doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, we call it, and it quite sums it up, actually. We call it CLM, Command, Leadership, and Management combined.
Yeah.
That's what the military gives you.
Oh.
And you can get, like you say, you can get away with it because you've not only got the experience.
Hey, Vanessa, good to see you.
You know, through levels of different trade levels, you've also got the rank structure as well, which would indicate authority, command.
Yes.
You've got some leadership. You know, they've got the ticks in the boxes experience. And when it's a civilian company, they literally teach you. You know, you're managing.
Oh boy.
It's managerial crap, which just is all right in paper and theory, but
yeah,
you don't get the stroppiness as much in the military. People know that if you tell them to do something, you know, 9 times out of 10 it's for a reason and not because you want to see them work extra and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's why, in my own experience, I stay absolutely honest because I want a reputation of being honest and dependable.
Mark, good to see you.
You know, I want that reputation, and if anyone slanders that, I don't like that. You're going to get a reaction from me that call me a liar or something like that, because if you're delegating assignments to your family or maybe a couple of neighbors, they've got to know you as a level-headed, absolutely honest person. Because if I got jerko neighbor delegating an assignment to me and I know he's a drunk and a liar and a thief, no, I'm going the other way, dude. Get away from me. Stay away.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey, the Aquatic News Network. Good to see you, brother.
The danger with Black Swan events, we could guess at things, but it's I mean a massive one on horizon is, you know, what they call it, the singularity, the artificial general intelligence becoming artificial super intelligence, and the knock-on effects from that, you know, good or bad.
Say that.
What was that? Sorry.
No, I got to stop saying, "Oh my gosh," and I said
right.
when you said about the artificial intelligence and all that kind of stuff is a very sort of sorry, I didn't mean to cut into you, PV.
Yeah, you know, the artificial intelligence singularity topic, we don't know what's going to happen there, good or bad. So that could be a massive Black Swan event, but you know, it's easier to think about Black Swan events in terms of these out of the blue, rare, sort of large scale events, but you can have the smaller ones which have a knock-on effect into other things. You know, the unexpected SHTF scenario, which will completely blindside the population and will be, you know, really key. It could be anything from, you know, a biological research mishap to, I don't know, aliens invading, for instance. You know, I mean, one that came out the other month was the dangers of mirror life and mirror DNA. And a lot of people will be saying, we're on about what's mirror DNA and mirror life. That's an example of a Black Swan event. If that happens and goes sort of rogue or escapes, then the implication of that, for instance, is the end of all life on Earth. You know, these sorts of things. It's something that completely blindsides us. You know, so yeah, I think the key thing to all this sort of thing is flexibility and the ability to act quickly and modify your existing plan to make it survivable and sustainable, really.
You just said something very, very important there, blindsided. And
yeah, exactly. 9/11.
That is a very, that is a very like we talk about things like dead rivers, dead volcanoes, you know, and also the way that this Ovid came along.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's just
Chuck,
like
buddy, good to see
we
you.
were sort of blindsided by it. I mean, yeah, it's a big sub.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get caught up in semantics or anything, but you know,
good to see you.
people can argue the point what is and what isn't a Black Swan event, but
Yeah.
what separates it? I mean, a pandemic occurs broadly every 10 to 15 years. It's always sort of happened. It will be the scale, the impact, the speed of, et cetera, which will determine that. But yeah, the Ovid thing, you know.
I'm going to write that on the top of the list there. I'm making a little list.
Ovid.
I'm going to write.
Oh, he's gone.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he will pop up again.
He'll come back in a sec. It's his connection probably.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, how do you prep for this sort of thing? How do you prep for a blindsided type of event? And I think a good place to start with is your EDC. I mean, if we take 9/11 for example, huge scale event. There he is. Huge scale event, shocking, out of the blue, and you know, what did the people on the ground have to get them through that day? And you know, it was their EDC basically. So you could start off with that, you know, for starters. But again, you know, sorry, go on, Bob. Yeah.
I just hope that if something like that comes along, that my family can get all rallied together, because they are the people that I know I can count on. Wife, daughter, son, I know I can count on them.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick indication of my last Black Swan was 9/11.
Right.
And I had recently had back surgery, so I was going through physical and occupational therapy to recover from that. So I wasn't 100%, not even close. I had two young sons at home to take care of. They were in grade school, and the ex was on a cruise ship in Alaska. Notice I said she was my ex. There's a reason for that. She was on vacation and left us there at the house, you know. So I was all up to me, and I was physically handicapped, and you know, we got through it. It was very scary because suddenly all the air traffic stopped, and you know, didn't really know what to do. Just got stuck in front of a TV and a computer. But we got through it. But it was convenient of her to be on a vacation and left us at home, me handicapped with two young kids, to get back and forth to school.
Yeah.
Thanks, X.
Don't want to be conspiratorial or anything, but wasn't the last flight out of America the Bin Laden family flight?
I don't know about that stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's so
Anyway, we won't go into that sort of rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's a deep rabbit hole that never ends.
Hey, Bonnie, good to see you.
But that's how it affected me.
That was like pearls. That was like a pearl.
Yeah,
did you hear that? That was like gold.
People can delve into that if they want to, but anyway. So yeah,
more precious than gold and silver and diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
One of the only flights during the air lockdown at 9/11 was a heli-med flight. That was a guy got bitten by a snake, and the only way to save him was to get this anti-venom to him by a helicopter, and that was authorized. So yeah, you know.
Oh, that would suck.
I bet you tried that anyway.
You're watching your arm or leg swell up. What do you mean air traffic is closed?
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. Yeah.
I thought I had a tough situation, but that would be far worse.
I'm not sure if it's a helicopter, but it's definitely a flight anyway. But
yeah, I think they'll make allowances for something like that here and there.
So, I mean, first, you know, you can mitigate this sort of thing with an EDC if you're out and about, but you know, you've literally got to plan, do the what if planning, the actions on planning.
Yeah.
What if this happened? What if that? People have got to. They can build up their generic set of preps. They can get a stockpile of food for however many weeks they want to get it for. They can get a water supply, power security, cash batteries, and so on and so on. But that will cover them for all the sort of generic threats. I think they've also got to thrash out between themselves and their family, or just sit there pondering things about what else could feasibly happen and what impact will it have on them. I mean, a lot of people get addicted to the news and doom scrolling because they like to see the fact that things are happening over there and not nearby, the proximal factor. So thrashing things out, what could happen, what if, and all this sort of thing is a good thing. General resilience is a good thing. Community building with neighbours, involving groups and stuff like it to share, have a bit of shared knowledge and support. Fine, that will boost you up. Just like you could give an example of the Amish or the Mennonites and stuff like that, who are always got a solid community bonding together and bolster each other up with their various skills and stuff like that. But and we mentioned this before previously. Concentrate on the big generic threats. You could almost have a sort of a set of a sort of a preparedness bubble system, if you like. Your core preps is generic, and thereafter you could splinter off in spokes to specific gear-related preps that are going to counter specific threats. For instance, but it's this sort of events, Black Swan events, are difficult, very difficult, because you don't know what gear you're going to need. You don't know the impact of how long the event is going to last for. So do you gather 3 weeks of food, 3 years of food, 3 months of food? Do you have 3 generators, 1 generator, $5,000 cash, $200 cash, 50 batteries, 5 batteries, etc., etc.? This is why the key thing is flexibility.
Yeah.
And remembering before buying loads of stuff that there's dates like
Hello, Screw Range. Good to see you again.
Will remind me, you've got that stuff from a few years ago. It doesn't mean that it's going to still have the same value today, like torches and whatever, electrical stuff. And no, things lose value.
I mean, I used to prep specifically for different events, and barring a couple of things, I'm now 20 plus years into it, gearing towards generic threats and things like having making sure me and my family and stuff, we adopt some sort of first aid training, navigation training, skills training. At least once a year. Once a year is enough. You can quite easily remember that. That was what we used to do in the army, CBRN training, etc., weapons training, and so on. And then have a core set of preps which you can mold into any sort of scenario within reason. Obviously, if the threat is, I don't know, stabbing, for instance, because you're going into a high crime area, then firstly you try and avoid that area. Secondly, if you really have to go into that area and you think you're going to get stabbed and stuff like this, you counter it with some other solution. Wherever you go in there with more of you, or you go in there where it's done best, or whatever it is. But a specific solution to a specific problem like that, you can get away with not doing. But it falls out. It falls out of the sort of tree of preparedness, if you like. The more you look into it,
I like
really, the more you need to do, the more you need to buy, etc., and you can get away with not doing that.
And the Aquatic News Network has a point here. As a multi-decade decade martial artist, I can guarantee you, if you are wanting to do weapons training, you definitely and absolutely need more than once a year to train. I agree with that.
Yeah, with
Mhm.
a skill,
Yeah.
definitely with a skill you do. Yeah,
Yep.
agree, because you get skill fade and stuff like this. Yeah.
I wanted to throw in back into leadership. If the Black Swan happens, whatever it might be, there's going to be a lot of people who are afraid, and people do foolish things when they're afraid.
Oh yeah.
And I think that would be the time that I would go and talk to some of the neighbors. How you doing? No, everything's going to be okay. Got nothing to worry about. Things will work out. Like, you see it even here online. Uh, I was on a panel the other day talking about my first time in martial law, and this one lady broke into tears. It's like, take it easy, take it easy. You're all right. Nothing's happened. Be able to maintain a frame of mind like that will really help a lot of other people if they see that at least one guy doesn't panic.
Yeah.
At least one. I wanted to throw that in again. But
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the basic level of it, stop, comprehend what's gone on, damage report. We all alive. Yes, right. It's a bonus.
Yep.
Evaluate what's going on, and then reorientate yourself and go off and start formulating some sort of plan. You can do that from a couple of seconds. If you're on the high street and there's some sort of active shooter going on or something like this, you can do that literally within 10 seconds. Get down, evaluate what's going on, see where the threat is, etc., etc., etc. And you can expand that all the way out to a massive event, which is taking you off guard and you're really not prepared for. And just take a bit slightly longer, formulate a plan. Like you say, the worst thing, I've seen this happen before with other people, where flying off the handle, make a knee-jerk reaction decisions, and you're flying off into the wrong direction. You could be potentially making it worse. You're stripping yourself of resources by going down that route, and it's just a nightmare. So yeah, definitely leadership is key. Although it's a balancing act, really. It depends it depends on the group dynamics as well.
Yeah, I guess it's also to you're bringing everything knowledge to the table. Someone might know something that someone else might not know.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone might know about electronics and might be able to get into a electrical break into a door, whereas someone else might know how to use the sort of old pick door picks, and someone else might know.
Well,
leadership, I think, is a group thing as well.
Yeah. This is why in the British military we have something called command tasks, which probably practiced in all other military units and stuff around the world, probably just called something different. And what they are is it's in a training environment. So you could be in a set of woods, for instance. You've got 2 barrels, 2 planks of wood, and a bit of rope, and you've got to cross this imaginary minefield and stuff like this. And the training, and you got time. It's time pressured, and you got one designated leader, and you got to work out the problem and get across the minefield using these elements, the barrels and so on. And it teaches you how to coordinate, interact with your group, lead the group. And in some instances you'll get one person and it's his way or my way or the highway sort of thing. And it could go well, it could completely break down and completely be a bag of shite. Or you could get the other group who says, right, give me some ideas, I'll give you 5 minutes to think about it. Everyone throws their ideas out, they all come up with a agreeable solution to begin with, and then they cross it, etc., etc. The British military, we practice that all the time, and it's normally on some sort of training course thrown in there. It's a good way to practice and evaluate command, leadership, management, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we did similar things to that in the Air Force also.
Yeah, yeah. So I bet every military in the world would do that sort of thing.
Certainly. That's your driving mission, is to achieve this, you know.
Yeah, exactly. With limited resources, seemingly impossible task, you know. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, looking back on the past year or so of these sort of podcasts, Shadow, I think it makes more sense, unless you've got a really specific threat. It makes sense to be more generic.
Yeah.
Because of the unexpected rare events that can happen, i.e., you know, Black Swan event type things.
Yeah. And it's also be nice if there was, like, obviously there are records, but like Bob said earlier on, the situation happened and everything was wiped out. And like, I'd like there to be a book where you could go, where it's titled, every place is on the planet that was once thriving with humans and then got wiped out. And then don't move there.
Hey, Howie, good
or
to
if
see
you do live in an area like that, get out. Because, you know, yes, things are rare. Things might not happen. You know, they say every 500 years, every 1,000 years. We've spoken about things like this before, things like dead rivers, people buying houses on dead rivers, and then all of a sudden the rain's just dropped, like, you know, more rain than the previous 10 years or something in the 2 nights.
Yeah, that happened last year in Spain.
Bam! All of a sudden, that house, which was guaranteed by the agent, no, that's a dead river. I guarantee you. Look, I sold 50 houses on that river, on that dead river. You know, and bam, you know,
and bam, those 50 houses is gone.
Yes.
I mean, look at sorry, go on.
No, sorry. So it'd just be nice to like, you know, although the information, like PB would say to us, there is information out there, things like you could go and find out about solar flares and this, that, and the other. Sorry, there. Go ahead, PB.
You know, so another new, you know, one that's happened recently, the October 7th attacks.
Yeah.
You know, looking back on that type of attack, it was inevitable at some point that type of attack was going to happen. Yet that is, you know, classic Black Swan event, massive impact.
Yeah,
it was, you couldn't predict that it was going to happen. Well, unless, you know, I don't know, I wasn't privy to the intel on that sort of thing, but, you know, that thing, yeah, that's going to happen, and could quite well happen again, but you can't really predict it because of,
it's
you know,
almost, it's amazing because they use those little paragliders, and you
yeah,
think to yourself, well, you know, the amount of kind of like the audacity to be able to just pull that off is just like, you know, them things are not super fast neither. They just sort of float along in the sky. You could probably hear it, and, like, you know, and no one saw it coming. You know, no one driving by, and
yeah,
you know, the Israeli army was just down the road. Whatever, they had helicopters and what have
and
you.
knock-on effects, and the impact of it was massive.
Exactly,
And we're still feeling it today.
And the people who's getting caught up in the crossfire, it's always not just the normal people. I mean, it's almost like it's scripted. It's almost like some of these we might say it just happened, but, you know,
Yeah, well,
it had to be planned. That something like that had to be planned for a long time. Or
this is the thing with this sort of event. Looking back retrospectively, it's obvious.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's not obvious before it happens.
yes.
I don't know if you.
Well, I mean, unless you knew that someone was buying up all the sort of local paragliders and, like, you know, like sort of guns and other people.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just confined to paragliders, was it? There were vehicles involved and so on, and subsequent waves and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, the effects of that, like
the
effects of that, like 9/11, will continue on for years, and we're seeing it. Like I said earlier, with the knock-on effects. You know, that happened 2023, and we're still feeling the full brunt of that effect with the pre-Palestine movement across near enough every westernized country in the world, causing all sorts of disruption and stuff like this. So
Yeah, it seems like more money's made not intervening than intervening, and that sort of covers a lot of different subjects. If you guys get what I'm trying to say, it seems that there's a lot of money to be made out there as well. And
yeah, I mean, the shock factor of any big event, any big Black Swan event, like say 9/11.
Hey, Mark, good to see you.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Mark. What's
Hey,
up, Mark?
hey, Mark.
You know, the shock event of it happening, and then you know, hours, days down the line, whatever the knock-on effect is, it generally turns into a generic prep event anyway. So what is the scale of the impact phase to begin with? Like the big the tsunamis, the Indonesian tsunami, the Fukushima tsunami. Initially, massive, you know, Black Swan event, bang, impact phase, and then as the hours and days followed, it turns into a sort of generic threat with these common things come out, you know, power, security, and all this sort of thing trickle down the line. So that you know, generic preps are, in my view, the way to go unless it's something specific.
Last kind of a black swan that happened to me personally was the last time when we went over to the Philippines, and the family was spread out. We all went to different islands for different occasions, and we got hit with a typhoon. Where I was at in Cebu was not much. It really wasn't anything. And myself and my brother-in-law were able to get back to Davao, where our home is, without any problem. The problem I had is I was counting on going to the airport and withdrawing more cash out of the ATM.
Yeah.
It wasn't working. So I had a limited amount of funds, which I learned next time I go there, I'm carrying a roll of cash, you know. But what happened to the rest of the family is it took them days and days to get back home. They had to have a, I don't understand the aviation over there. I'm going to leave it right there. It doesn't make sense to me. But they had to go to different islands and buses for hours just to get from one place to the next. Took them like 3 days for my wife to get back home.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah, but that's you know, that little country. That's the way it is. Yeah.
How long? How far did she travel?
I went about an hour flight from home in Davao to Cebu, and my brother-in-law stayed with the rest of the family over on Palawan. That's about another hour flight. But when I got back home, I did have some canned goods stored away in the house, and I was able to eat. And I made a video about it. And my brother-in-law, now actions speak louder than words, because my brother-in-law immediately drove over to my house and picked me up. Come on, Bob, let's go. Let's go. Get you something to eat right away. No, I didn't ask for anything, but he saw the video that I was at home with no car, no cash, and just some canned goods. So actions speak louder than words, but that was kind of a black swan thing to us.
How far away did your wife have to?
Oh my God,
travel?
dude! They had to go from Palawan, which is way over here, fly up to Manila, which is in the north of the country, wait 2 days in the airport, fly all the way down to General Santos City down in southern Mindanao, and then take up about a 4 or 5 hour bus ride. You know, they had to stay there for another day to get a bus, and then take a bus ride all the way back up to Davao, where my brother-in-law were able to get out of there right after the typhoon hit. We were good, you know, we were good to go, but the rest of them got stranded for days. Fortunately, they had enough money to eat and take care of themselves.
Well,
But
see, if people were to actually listen to what you said, then that's an absolute nightmare of a not only journey but time, the uncomfortable factor of waiting.
PV, my friend, the family was exhausted by the time they got home. You imagine spending like 3 or 4 days in a freaking airport. That sucks.
Yeah,
but
sucks.
It is. It's awful. But learned it. But that's why I'm putting cash away starting a little while ago. So when I go there to the airport after I arrive the next time, I'm going to hand them over a big wad of cash. Exchange it right now, and then that's going to get separated. But I'm going to keep more cash on hand because that's how it affected me.
Yeah,
I was saying, I think you got to stock versatile resources. Cash definitely, it goes hand in hand with any sort of outage. Batteries, robust first aid kit. No matter how small or how big you got it on your body or wherever it is, then it definitely goes a long way. Definitely goes a long way. I mean, can you imagine being stuck in that situation with no comms, no cash, 400 miles, 3 days away from home, and are you going to get back? No one's going to start lending you money unless they're really good.
Hey, Mother Earth Garden Club, good to see you.
It's a nightmare.
I felt sorry for the average Filipino because they're not stacked with cash, and they're sitting there in the airport with my wife, my wife is very generous, so she did buy people food, random strangers. That's her culture over there. If you're hungry, I will feed you. That's the way it is. Goes without question. But the average person getting stuck like that with no money or nothing, oh boy. Ooh.
That's a nightmare. Ooh.
Yeah.
I know 9/11 messed me up and pretty much started my journey where I am now. We lived in Maryland at the time. My parents lived in Jersey. My dad worked in the city. He was on his way to the city. He had to stop in Jersey City on the way in, watch things happen. His buddy was supposed to meet him at Windows of the World for breakfast. He came out of a subway tunnel watching the towers fall. My wife, who worked for WorldCom, she was in Texas. They lost 92 or 93 people on the 88th floor in Tower 2 when it hit, and they were on the phone with the guys. I mean, they were doing technical stuff, and she was on the phone, and they're like, something's going on. Building And then the last time it happened, she was on the phone with two of the guys there, and when they bombed the basement, and they thought, they got rescued by a helicopter. And this time they all ran up to the roof again, and they're like, oh, don't worry, there's helicopters in the air. We're going to get rescued. And one of the guys literally just said, time to check out. And the building fell. And they watched it on TV. And now she's stuck in Dallas. She flew there. She had a rental car. She's telling me, I'm with my mom and my daughters at home. And my wife's like, I'm going to turn the rental car in. We're going to take a train home. I was like, no, don't do it. So it was her and two other guys, which she hated. They drove 37 hours all the way from Dallas back to Maryland. And they my dad was stuck in Jersey by himself. Took him about 16 hours to go 20 miles. He couldn't go anywhere. They shut everything down. He couldn't really walk it. It's all like, Jersey City and all that stuff. So he was stuck there. He hung out with a couple guys he knew and I guess just drank for 12 hours. But
Black Swan can happen.
That totally messed me up. I mean,
my
wife's thought my dad was going to go drive down and get her. I'm like, no, she's driving. And I mean, it messed me up pretty good. Messed my wife up, and pretty much put me on the journey I'm on now. With I don't like it. She wanted to be a travel nurse. I'm like, where are you going to go? She's like, oh, I could go to California. I was like, no. I said, if you're going to go anywhere, you're going to go within a reasonable distance that I can drive and get you.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm not flying to the other side of the country and staying in some crap bag hotel and dealing with the locals and that. No, not happening. So,
what sort of preps do you think would have made it better for her to have with her?
Oh, down there, just basic stuff. She only had enough stuff for a day and a half. Clothing, and that was it. And all the restaurants, whatever food they were feeding her. So she didn't have really much of anything with her. She didn't have a backpack where she walked like a day. She had nothing. So
Wow.
at this point now, it's like, yeah, even though she works a mile from the house, she always has a little bag in the car just in case,
Yep.
Blanket stuff. I don't keep water in there. What's the point? I could walk to her and get her. But now I'm starting Monday. I work from home, so I don't even worry about carrying my bag around in my work truck anymore. I'm in the house, so I can organize even better now.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. That's where I'm
That's
at.
good.
That's where I'm at. Yeah.
So sorry, I just had to get that out there.
But
No
yeah,
problem.
Black Swan can happen at any time, guys, and it has more than once in my life.
Yeah. And Black
The-
Swan events comes with a surprise.
Yeah.
And they will kick
9/11.
your butt.
Staring into the TV set, watching for the news. Nobody's doing anything. They're all freaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's really
Yeah.
going on behind the scenes at that point? We have no idea.
Yeah. 9/11 was one, and then I had another one in Makati City, but the typhoon the last time we went. But the one in Makati City was when that major tsunami hit Indonesia and Thailand, and it was the lesson learned right there was how much the news in the U.S. is censored. Because I was over in the Philippines when the tsunami hit Thailand, and I was getting real news sent over the television, and I could see what really happened. And mass death. I mean, mountains of dead people. It was horrible, beyond description. And when I came back to the States, oh, yeah, I guess they had a flood or something.
Mm.
That's exactly what our news reported. All our news reported about this was a couple of old people hanging on to each other and getting swept away. And that's it.
Now, the only TV stuff we saw was that one hotel shot with the waves coming over the wall, flooding the pool, and people up on the third floor watching.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that was all we got. And a couple of scenes from where the water went out like 400 yards or better. And some of the tourists were walking out with it. And all of a sudden, here it comes, and you watch some of them get swept away, but they didn't show much. They wanted to show.
I saw Filipino news that showed what really happened. My God, I can't describe it. It was unbelievable. And people in the States are like, oh, I think it rained or something. I don't know.
Well, look at 9/11 here. We were glued to our TV sets for days.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then when we went to, when we went over to Iraq, we were yet again glued to our TV sets for days.
Yeah.
And half of that stuff turned out literally fake, and they caught them and showed it.
We had a big response for the earthquake, the tsunami, because in the media, because basically the NGOs and charities are quick to jump onto it and sensationalize it so much. Well, it didn't need sensationalizing, reporting it so much that it promoted this massive fundraising effort.
Oh yeah.
People were putting in, £50 notes, £100 notes, and people were putting big chunks of money in.
Yeah.
Okay, rightly so. But the old percentage of aid is debatable. How much it actually gets to the people and stuff. But
we get lied to in our media so much, and that tsunami was a real eye opener because I was overseas. I saw the real news. There were two videos that I still can't get out of my head. I can't forget them. One was, I think it was Thailand. It was so ugly. It was the tsunami hit Thailand in the morning, and this guy was on a veranda filming the daily activity of the open market in this little narrow street. And it was all moms with preschool kids, guys, walking along, getting some vegetables for the breakfast and lunch, little kids in tow, and a wave of garbage and water about 12 feet high took every human being away in a second. And they didn't. They should have shown that on our news. They should have shown that, because then no one survived that, because they got piled sheets of steel and dead people and everything just ground up into meat, man. What?
Vehicles, streets, garbage, dumpsters, everything.
And the second one was a few days after that tsunami hit. I still can't forget this. It was a fishing village right on the shoreline, and it was gone. It was down to wet sand. It was gone. And the men who survived managed to get like a 2-ton flatbed truck running, and the hood was ripped off, and they got a chainsaw that would run. And I saw a video where that truck was coming out of what's left of a pile of rubble and jungle full of firewood, and all these men who survived had to go and pick up their relatives and their neighbors and throw them on a pile and light them on fire. That was their families, their friends, their neighbors, and they should have shown that in the States. But they didn't, you know.
No, that's too dramatic for us people over here. We're so very fragile.
Yeah. Well, whatever. It is still embedded in my mind, because, I mean, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
I'm done.
The scale of destruction and those sorts of things are unbelievable. And
yes, it is.
I think more people will get exposure these days because you've got cameras everywhere and YouTube and stuff. People can upload it instantaneously and stuff. And a big thing that struck me with that event was, in the aftermath, was being able to imagine how to get from A to B. And you saw this massive wall of this stuff. It was just twisted metal mixed in with wood, glass, sharp, all sorts of things. And there's just absolutely no way you could have climbed over and got up from A to B in any sort of hurry. You were just absolutely stuck. Yeah.
And that little village scene I saw was moms with toddlers in tow, little preschool kids, no warning whatsoever. Wham! And they got all ground up, man.
Barely had a chance to turn and start to run.
Exactly, Mark. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it amazes me how even in the Japanese tsunami, these people were, versed to tsunami training drills, earthquake training drills, and people were just watching it, and they were just like walking away from it as if they could outwalk it and stuff like this. And the cars were, some cars saw it and did a U-turn and got out of the way, and it's just the unresponsiveness for some people was amazing.
Yeah, it can't happen to me scenario.
Yeah, I can outrun it, etc., etc.
I've seen a lot of those videos.
It's not going to go 40 miles inland at that height. No, it's not going to pile up and get bigger. No.
Yeah, I saw a lot of those videos where people who did act immediately in Japan were up on mountainsides, hillsides, and they kept yelling at people in the valley, "Run, run!" And some of these people were just like, "What? I got to get more toilet paper." Boom! Wiped out. Yeah.
And if people act like that in a country which is more, aware of preparedness, I can't. I just, if that was to happen in Britain, that would just be. I can just imagine what would happen there.
I'm still waiting for a mid-Atlantic ridge tsunami to be, just say, started somehow, or a mid-Pacific tsunami to be started somehow by some whatever, and wipe out all the coastlines on either side.
Yeah, well, you've got a potential looming Black Swan event is the La Palma landslide, which could happen, and it's debatable whether or not it's just going to cause a big splash or a massive tsunami that travels all the way across to the eastern border of America.
Hey, it's good to see you, man.
Well, I hope it hits that damn raccoon's house first.
Yeah, okay? I'm good. I will have waterfront property because the Potomac River is only about 6 miles away from where I'm at currently. So, but I'll have waterfront property.
I think it's dangerous to cling to one sort of way of life. You've got to be varied and flexible, definitely. But it's the key to it, I think.
Yeah, I
if
definitely
someone,
agree.
let's take the, I don't know, if you're in a house at Fukushima area, and you outside the radiation zone and stuff like this, and your house just survived the tsunami, what preps would you need to continue on? So food and water, fine, alternate power supply, etc., etc. The generic preps, what you keep going back to, no matter what the threat is, will steer you a long way into the aftermath of anything, really. And then you got people got to think about security and stuff like that. Then, as time ticks along, and we start dealing with the unprepared, the knee-jerk reaction idiots, and then crime starts to escalate from there. The focus it goes on more to security then, maybe banding together depending on how long it's going to last, community knowledge support and so on. Yeah, that's why as far as I'm concerned, security is up there in one of the big ticks in the boxes.
I agree.
It's all right when you're all surviving towards a common aim, like you and your neighbour that hate each other will pull each other out of a flood river that's you're just about to die from, but in the hours following, you sort of resort back to your your other methods of thinking.
Yeah, and we're living in very dangerous times as well. We're living in times where, the penny is more valuable than the drop of blood. Even these days, it's like, it's like a penny a drop these days. It's not even worth that anymore.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've sprung onto something there because if you were look back from the 1940s, 50s, and so on, you wouldn't really have comprehended the amount and scale of threats that we face now, and the uncertainty of things.
Now, the threats back then were war, and your sons and daughters going to war,
yeah,
or the war coming here, and that was the fear factor they had in the United States back in the World War II. Is they're coming here? They're coming. Everybody's got to band together, and they did, just like they did with 9/11. Everybody banded together at the last minute, and we all became friends, so to speak. And then all of a sudden, we're just being split apart again.
Yeah, now you think you add into that's the mix of cyber attacks, foreign intervention, fifth columnists,
sympathizers,
genetically modified X, Y, and Z, and corruption on a huge scale, allegiance, lack of trust, and these days, just like at school, I wouldn't like to grow up these days compared to when I grew up. It'd be so complex, unbelievable. Throw in the factor of you've now got digitization of things, the internet, social media, and the looming sort of question mark over AI and which direction that's going to go, and the misuse of it, and all this sort of thing.
I'll go into like where Mark and I live here in the U.S. In the last 4 years, our population, we had estimate 40 million people from around the world poured into our country from God only knows where.
CR said he hasn't seen a penny for ages.
Well, and that you get that plus normal population increase.
Yeah,
you're facing a black swan every time you open your front door.
Yeah, except it's not a certain population that's increasing right now. It's yet another population that's increasing. We're becoming the minority slowly.
Well,
depends on how fast.
Each country is morphing into the same blob.
Yeah.
If you look,
pretty much,
if you look around the world, all Western countries, they're slowly 10 to 15 years time. What we're looking at, we're looking at America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Well, not so much New Zealand, Europe, Britain, morphing into this sort of populace where no one's got any specific allegiance to the country anymore. It's just a complete,
company sort of business
collection of United Nations, stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a potential, slow burning black swan coming up there.
Yeah,
At what
it
point
is.
I mean, you look at Spain at the moment, that is on the point of flashing over. Yeah.
So we tend to think in the now situation. Everything is right now, immediately, right away, within a short period of time. Other cultures, we'll just say, think in terms of millennia. They're on the long-term path. We're on the short-term path. Something's going to happen. Let me go buy toilet paper. Okay, we're done. Other cultures are like, yeah, we're going to make this happen, and it might be 3-4 generations, but I'll be a part of it, and I won't see the outcome, but that's what's going on. I mean, we all see it. We're just not going to mention specifics, right, Daryl Love? Like, yes, no, we're not going to mention specifics. We know what we're talking about here.
Well, yeah, the deception is also to do with, it's like, even it's so sort of extreme. It's even with simple things like products, for example. When we were kids, when we were children in the UK, we were bombarded with these video adverts, about washing powder. It can make your white. You can make your white t-shirts whiter than white. It's tomato sauce. So it's like they lie to sell stuff. Today we hear stuff all the time about lying to get somewhere, and the deception. And the reason why I'm talking about this, there is a reason, going back to something that PV said, which was about aliens. And a Black Swan event is where, like, you see a group of 57.5 foot tall aliens that look like Predator with teeth out here, snapping, all sorts of weaponry. I mean, who saw that coming?
I think the next Black Swan is going to be mostly an AI generated event. We're going to see things on the news that look real, but you're not. There's going to be no witnesses you can call on the phone and say, "Hey, you live right there. Did you see it?" No, I didn't. Man, it was right up the street from me. Okay, did anybody see it? Well, no, I saw it on TV. I mean, this is where it's going to go. They got AI so freaking tuning in. I mean, shit, Bob could be AI right now. We wouldn't even know it.
That's correct. I could be, I could be the man on the ground witnessing the invasion of Taiwan, wherever, whatever, and it would look and sound just like me, someone who's I consider myself pretty trustworthy. And yeah, I think that's a good point, Mark. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think someone said in the chat there that they're cutting down on that kind of stuff on YouTube, where they're sort of like banning AI videos. Is that correct? Does anybody?
Well, I could show you AI videos now.
Yeah,
and you won't be able to tell the difference anymore.
You can go over to Rumble. Every advertisement is AI now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Most mainstream media newspaper articles are AI generated.
Yeah.
I can show you videos now which are completely. We're literally at the point now where you literally cannot trust anything you see or hear online.
I agree. I agree.
So
literally.
We don't want to scaremonger people out there, anyone listening, but just keep the basics. Take every day as it comes. Keep yourself together, and what would be nice. Remember that film where that guy had a baseball bat on the wall? You'll remember that as I'm going along with the story, and then
hey, simple happy life. Good to see you.
He come in the front room, Mel Gibson, and he was faced with a big alien in front of him, and then I think his son was to his right.
Yeah, he said, swing, just swing. Yeah, and he cracked
swing away. Yeah, signs. Yeah.
Just have a baseball bat on the wall.
Well, I mean,
come on, let's have it.
These knock-on events, which you don't really appreciate the impact of them straight away. When Russia went into Ukraine, that had a massive effect that people still don't realize today. And prices of vehicles, because at the time Ukraine made over 75% of all wiring looms in every vehicle in the world, and that caused a massive disruption. And as a direct result of that, the price has increased quite largely. Little example there, but another one looming on the horizon is the China-Taiwan scenario, and the ability of Taiwan to produce chips, or the equipment needed to produce chips. And in this age of electronics, printed circuit boards, computers, AI, etc., the demand is so great that if it's a massive key resource that someone eventually is going to fight over. Well, so just the fact that China is going to ring fence and take a slow stranglehold on Taiwan and potentially invade it, that's by the by. The further implications down the line of electronics and computers and manufacturing is going to be more of an impact, I think. If a country these days invades another country, people look at the news and say, "Oh, they've invaded such and such a country." It's not until the shit starts rolling downhill and we start feeling it at home that people start to raise their eyebrows. Oh, I can't go in the pub anymore because there's no beer. Then when it affects people down the line like that, people start to take notice.
And where I see a lot of videos coming out, I subscribe to quite a few Japanese channels. Japan is pumping out AI. Normal YouTube channels are pumping out AI videos like you would not believe. It's you can still kind of tell that it's not real, sort of, if you pay close attention, but hundreds of them coming out of there every single day. It just, which adds to the frustration of being able to trust. How can you trust? You can't.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll post a link in a minute to a video which is super realistic. I'll just hunt for it.
And AI can be used here for cyber attacks as well.
Now, let me get this straight, okay? There's a lot of Japanese videos of young ladies in mini skirts and looking really good that are AI, and that should be left untouched.
Yeah, just for you.
Just for me.
It's just humans, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day, what is AI? Artificial intelligence. I mean, it's made by humans. It's not going to be that great then. I mean,
right. I can hold a conversation now with an artificial intelligence program, and it will do what you want, basically. I don't. If anyone's heard of Grok 4 is just updated.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, some stuff on that one. That's funny.
I like the fact that they tell the truth. They got in trouble the other day for telling the truth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Grok 4 is so advanced now. Quote Elon, it is more. It's got more thinking power. That's a powerful word, and knowledge than every PhD in the world combined. That's the latest update that's just come out. Anyway, I've just posted a link.
It's got a lot of terabytes.
I've just posted a link.
It's beyond petabytes. That's what that is.
It's got a lot of memory.
Posted a link in there that if you click on that X link, it will take you to a complete AI video. No humans involved, and people will just have a quick example of what sort of stage we're at.
Until it starts to do something that people don't like, and they try to cut it down, and it moves over to some other area.
Well,
PV, are you a robot?
How can you tell these days?
Are you real? Come on, let us know, please. Come on.
You literally cannot tell these days unless you physically meet me.
I'm getting worried now that PV's like this, some kind of robot.
Take a look at that little link I just posted there. The first video in there, that's complete AI. There's no people in that whatsoever.
Wow.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you hear people saying when it comes in, when it starts taking effect, it already has, and we are not even noticing it until just now.
Yeah, I mean, the big Black Swan event coming up is what we call the singularity.
Uh-huh.
The point in which we've gone beyond AGI, artificial general intelligence, and we've gone into ASI, artificial super intelligence, in which the ultimate scenario of every accumulated human piece of knowledge combined at this thing's ability, and the ability to super comprehend, calculate, and it's even quite mind blowing just to think about. But I mean, we just don't know, on the Black Swan sort of side of it, where we're going to get sideswiped next. We're sitting here thinking, flashing out sort of different ideas. Where you might have a good set of common generic preps just in case, your food, your water, security, cash, batteries, all this sort of stuff, and a bit of this, and you got a bit of training and skills, and you got some books stored away, and you got your radio and basic tools. You might even have a sat phone, but you just don't know. We just don't know what is going to sideswipe us next.
And the hard. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, go on. Yeah, you're literally down to your improvisation, adaptation skills, really.
And that makes it even more difficult because they could be feeding out 2 or 3 mega disasters all at the same time. All of them are fake. Or maybe one of them is real, and the other 2 or 3 are AI.
Didn't actually happen.
Which do you believe?
Years ago, wasn't there a radio station that put out this stuff that there was a war of the worlds and everybody thought it was real in America?
Yeah, well, that's a good test bed, you see, because that was a good indication of how people may react.
Yeah, they mentioned underhandedly in the beginning that this is just we're just doing a storyline here, and that's the only time they mentioned it. And people tuned in 10 seconds late, and things are landing in New Jersey and in Lakewood, and blowing things up, and there's aliens everywhere. Now you got people out there shooting water tanks and stuff and shooting each other. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Bob, just give me an idea there. You talk about multiple events. If I've thought personally that along the lines of a linear sort of regime. So in other words, what we're saying is, and I can imagine many other preppers think of, if something like, if volcano happens, if an earthquake happens, if a tsunami happens, if X, Y, and Z happens, we've got some sort of plan in place. But I wonder how many people out there are thinking to themselves, or got into their plan, so to speak. What if all these multiple events like this on a massive scale will happen within a short space of time or at once? As well as that happening, you've then got the fallout of sewage, water, power failing, and dealing with those as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And then another Black Swan event idea thrown around could be the fact that you could have a social media induced disaster where social media, say frenzy or gathering or collective, get together, scheme and contrive some sort of uprising or whatever it is. And when I say social media, it doesn't necessarily have to be Facebook, Twitter, or any of this sort of stuff. It can be something like a gaming online chat room.
I recall. It's kind of off topic, but it's about setting the stage like War of the Worlds. I watched a movie on Netflix about some rock concert that went completely berserk, and the place was burned to the ground. It was acres of land with vendors and all that. And I watched it as the vendors ran out of water, they ran out of food, and people paid hundreds of dollars for a 3 or 4 day event. And there was no one there to pick up the garbage. There was no one there to dump the portable toilets.
That was the Burning Man, 4 years ago?
Yeah, it was something like that. And then at the end, um, they handed out candles to the entire audience, burning candles to the entire audience. It wasn't a Burning Man, but it was something like that.
It was something
And,
that, like Salt Lake or something, where
yeah,
and it rained and everybody got stuck. Nobody could leave, and they're like 15 miles from the nearest road or something.
No, this wasn't that. It was another event. It was, and there was garbage everywhere. The people were rioting because they're out of food and they're out of water, and the toilets are overflowing. So they're really angry crowd, young people. And then let's pay a memorial to Jimi Hendrix or somebody like that. So they lit candles and passed them out. Thousands of lit candles passed out to the crowd, and they burned the place to the ground. So that was a test right there, a social experiment, they call it. I think it was a social experiment. It was set up to see how long people would be able to tolerate no food, no water, no sanitation. And it lasted about 3 days.
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Reading some of the years down the line, some of the experiments they used to do on the population, and released all sorts of things, and play all sorts of sounds and experiment with people, and
along with that goes with that fellow who was talking about, he had a viral video about his experiences during one of the last hurricanes that hit the East Coast. Keep the number in your house. About 3 days is when the no goods came out of the woodwork, and they were prowling around the neighborhoods looking for anything to get a hold of. Same with that social experiment. I'm sure it was to burn and to loot and to destroy. You got about 3 days of peace, and then you better get a baseball bat in your hands
or something else.
3 days. Yeah, 9 or 45. Yeah, either one.
I like to do things from a distance. I don't like to get involved personally.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I completely understand. Believe me, Swarovski can be your best friend.
Yes.
You know what that means. Yeah.
Minolta's one of my good friends too, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, they're good companions.
She's old, but she's a good friend.
Zeiss and yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the scary part about AI. If they pump out insanity to get the population stirred up on all social media, it's going to work. It'll probably take them about 3 days, and then stuff's going to start coming apart because they saw it online,
Yeah.
I think the naivety of some people with online stuff is just beyond comprehension. Grey zone warfare has been going on for a while now.
Oh boy!
Foreign intelligence services creating, manipulating stories and planting the seed of disruption online. Just to escalate it further on. It all adds up, and they can't lose on it. It's more or less free. You got all these bot farms. I could show you a video of when I say, people don't know what a bot farm is. I'm talking a room, say 20 foot long, 10 foot wide, full of about 10,000 phones.
Yep.
In boxes, all linked together, and each one of the phones is mimicking someone or interacting with.
I told my wife that she bought something on Amazon about 2-3 weeks ago, and she's like, "Oh, it's only been around for a short time. It's got like 9,000 5-star reviews." I was like, "Sweetie, they're all bots."
Yeah.
I said, "I could do the same thing. I could create something, one of those duck things like the chicken. I could create one of those." And that was one of those rubber chicken things. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you've done really well there. I thought it was great.
I could create something like that and then just, send $5,000 off to a bot farm and say, "Hey, I need 100,000, 5-star reviews on my new rubber chicken because it has a different sound." And man, $5,000, boom.
Yeah.
I'm on Amazon and I got the top thing going. Man, I'll sell the crap out of it and then go out of business really quick because everybody's going to be like, "This is the same rubber chicken I've always had."
Yeah. Well, the other one is, it must be happening. It must be real because it's trending. What does trending mean? It just means that an amount of computers are promoting the same thing. Yeah, I mean, online you got so many naive people out there, and not naivety. I mean,
naive people do foolish things. Don't you agree?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Question everything online.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Alternate sources of information. Back it up with different types of inputs and this sort of stuff. And only then you can start to make some sort of semi-informed decision.
If it's
you
not
look
in
at
the Bible, don't believe it. If it's not biblical, then throw it away.
If you look at recent events here in the States, the ICE raids, guys, in case you aren't aware of that, ICE has been around doing the same stuff they're doing today for the last 30 years. This is nothing new. This is nothing new. Okay.
Hey, I'll be back in a few minutes.
And if you look at the mass media from another country who is not aware of situations and locations, you would be duped into believing that the United States is coming apart at the seams. It's not. And you get people who are easily panicked, and the toilet paper thing a few years ago was a perfect example. People who are easily deceived, and now you've got groups of people who are in shock, and they're going to do anything because they're not thinking straight. I mean, this is very dangerous times. That's why occasionally, guys, I got to turn this stuff off. I put on some music, listen to some music, and go out and do some gardening. I have to, because I don't know what point I'm trying to make. It just don't believe what you're being shown.
Most of the time, it's you're wasting time as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to the point now. I think ahead in the week coming up, and I at least try to achieve 5 real world things that I've got to do.
Right.
Whether that's to mend the shower or screw a new light in or whatever it is, cut the grass, but tick those boxes off first. Otherwise, the end of the week will come round and I still haven't done this, still haven't done that. All I've done is just feed myself crap online for a week.
Well, CR, it's a good comment. The TP thing I only learned about from people. I saw it for myself. I went over to get milk, eggs, whatever else, and I saw people with big reams of toilet paper shoving it into the trunk of their car. It's like, and there was no toilet paper, no paper towels. All the paper stuff was gone. I saw that myself, and it's like, are these people really that foolish? You can't think about taking a bar of soap and washing your ass, huh? Yeah, but it's just crazy, man. But yeah, Black Swan stuff can happen at almost any time. What the heck is that?
It's an AI video he's looking at there.
That's AI? Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
I've seen that before. Yeah. It's quite a funny AI X channel now. It's called Bigfoot and Yeti. And this guy just makes Bigfoot videos. Look so real, and it's Bigfoot trying water skiing, camping, and
fishing. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's funny, but it just shows you the scale of and progression of things at the moment. Because this time last year, we didn't have anything like this. So the rate of progression is escalating.
Yep,
exponentially, Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say for most people out there, most of us who are talking and listening right now, we're all in pretty good shape. Most of us are. We can handle almost anything, but I think the biggest challenge will be trying to. How much should we believe that we're being shown?
Yeah. Mentality, the mindset. We always talk about this as well, and this because it always comes back to this sort of subject. We always talk about it. It means it's quite significant in just about every aspect of preparedness that we've spoken about. and the ability to sort of comprehend things, rationalize things, and have a sensible decision-making mind, and
Yes.
with your group is massive.
Yeah.
Not flying off the handle, panicking, and just completely not thinking straight at all. I mean, I've been in situations where my hands have been shaking with not so much fear, but adrenaline, anticipation type stuff.
Yes.
And you always, well, I have anyway. Mentally reeled myself in, rationalized to myself. Okay, fine. If X, Y, Z happens, it happens. If not, then you got to do what you set out to do and this sort of stuff. But putting it fairly cryptically, but
I understand. No.
And prioritize what's important. Stop, take a breath, realize what's happening. Where do we go from here? Some things are things at the end of the day, and people get possessive about a lot of things that really don't matter, and they don't really concentrate on the things that do matter, really. I spent 5 hours this week on separate days talking to a guy on his deathbed, 101 years old, and the last visit I did with him, the next morning, got a note from his relatives saying he died. But I had a good chat with him. He was in the Second World War and went on to Malaya and this sort of stuff. And
oh wow,
he arrived D-Day +4. Can't remember what beach he was at, but went on to Cairn, and then he actually drove Montgomery around in his vehicle for a couple of weeks as his driver. Got charged because he left the vehicle in crap state. And then went on to Malaya, and his outlook on things is completely different from, I'll say, the average person, because priorities of previous events and what he has learned in life and what really matters is different than, say, the popularity of online exposure and social media stuff. Youngsters these days, I think they're. I'm starting to sound old now. Youngsters these days, it's far more social media profile driven, and I don't know. I mean, there was the counter arguments and that sort of thing, that in Afghanistan, for instance, I kept hearing, when you go back home after R&R and stuff like this, you hear stories and people were saying, the youngsters today aren't anything like they were in the 1940s and stuff like this. But when it comes down to it, they are. The guys on the grounds, they left peacetime, went into, say, Afghanistan, social media left behind, and they got on with the job, just as any young lad would have done back in the 1940s. They did the job, they did it, exceptionally well and all this sort of stuff to the best of their ability. So everybody's got it within themselves to revert back to the core things in life. But it just takes some sort of thing to drive them to that. It's like the Israeli guy who got separated in the jungle in Central America, and he spent 2 weeks on his own. He got separated from his group, and they thought he died or whatever. I'm not sure, but when he got rescued in the end, he said, everyone's got it in themselves to survive. They just don't know how yet. So they revert back to their core sort of survival instincts, priorities, and stuff. And at the moment, people's priorities are all over the place, whether that's trust issues, social media priorities, external influences, peer pressure, etc. I don't know what it is, but
well, fellas, I'm going to go out and get some sunshine.
Right.
Put on
Bob.
music on my headset. Peace out, everybody.
Roger that. We'll catch you in a bit, Bob.
Take care.
All right.
Roger that, Bob.
Chef, I called off the B-52 bomber. You know, you get to live another day. He's not even listening. All right. Peace out, everyone. God bless.
Peace out, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Take care.
I've spent all day in the sun today. I'm indoors. That's me.
Yeah, I'll try to stay indoors.
Back
It's
to the
too
cycle.
hot.
All right,
It's too hot. And next
Yeah.
week will get even worse.
Right, the heat wave. Bedrooms.
Yeah,
Hit
it's
you,
like
is it?
crematoria here.
All right. Yeah.
Well, it's not.
Well,
it's not doing my psoriasis too much damage. I mean, it's actually helping me out. It's actually clearing the psoriasis a bit for me.
Right.
Not too much though, but.
Well, I mean, talking of Black Swan events, I mean, it was only a couple of months ago, if that the Spain, Portugal, bits of Germany, Netherlands got the big blackout, and they put that down to temperature fluctuations at the end of the day. You know, what we're getting now, big heat waves coming to and fro and moving across from country to country. So it's not out of the question yet. And it probably could happen again quite easily and put strain on other interconnected systems. And funnily enough, like someone said last week, there was a massive scramble for wind-up radios when that happened. Yeah. So I mean, I think people take things just token effort these days. I mean, I always go back to this list. I've got a list here in my notebook. You know, food, water, power. My priority is keeping the freezer running.
And a good first aid kit too.
Yeah, security, first aid kit, batteries. Everything runs on batteries. Sat phone, maybe if you've got a sat phone. Training, skills, knowledge, and the other three I'm gonna maps, paper maps, a radio, and some basic sort of tools. That worst case scenario, that's all you got. I mean, generally, if people look around their own house, they've got most of this stuff anyway. The perishables like food and water will be the big thing.
Yeah.
After that, it'll be, say, the ability to keep the freezer or fridge running. And if you can't do that, then you've lost your ability to sustain, your fresh food source.
Yeah.
It's all right going out hunting deers and stuff like this. If you can actually hunt or any sort of animal, then you're going to freeze it. It's going to last as long as it takes to decompose, I suppose, unless you're well good at smoking or salting and stuff like this. So.
Get into watching some of those videos, how they can skin and prepare animals, and because even if you prepare, if you don't know what you're doing, you could actually poison the good stuff.
Yeah, even things like hunting is very hard to do. Even a skilled hunter with who's practicing for years and he's got his established sort of trap line and all this sort of stuff will find it difficult. Fishing, if anyone goes fishing with a rod and reel from the shore, they'll know how hit and miss it can be. Well, I used to go out sometimes, in the summer months, you could catch between 3 or 4 people, 100 mackerel each if you land in a mackerel shoal. Other times, you'd all come away after 6 hours of fishing with nothing. You might have a couple of crabs and that'll be it. Little ones.
Yeah, and the problem with fishing is if the water is too warm, they will not bite.
And shore fishing is quite difficult, really. It does take a lot of skill. You got to know the places to go, the right tackle, the right baits, and so on and so on. And I mean, to be a well-rounded sort of prepper, if you like, you need to start off with sort of a couple of systems of knowledge. You need to have a bushcraft base, you need to have a survival base, a bit of a homesteading base of knowledge, and then sort of modern world skills, electronics, conductivity, communications, all this sort of stuff. And So that's why I say to people, if anyone wants to start off preparedness, maybe start off with the survival aspect of it, then venture into the bushcraft side of it. The further down the line you're going here, you become less reliant on the natural world. So survival bushcrafts into sort of general preparedness, then sort of the golden solution will be the homesteading sort of life, because you are sustainable in a sort of longer term scenario there. But it's
I agree with you about that, Tuck.
Yeah, the seashore as a location is good to be at, because you've got the fish as a resource to catch. I mean, if you were in a longer term scenario, then I'd suggest you wouldn't be fishing with a rod anyway. You'd be passive fishing with some sort of catch net or something like that, where it does the work for you, And so you got the fish there, you got the shoreline animals, whether it be and food. So you got the mussels, the limpets, the mollusks, the seaweed, or the seashore plant and fauna. You might have seagulls and all that sort of stuff. So it offers a lot more abundance and opportunity than inland anywhere.
I've got a question for everybody, in respected countries as well. In the UK, if you want to go fishing, you have to have a fishing permit. You have to have a fishing permit for river fishing and a different one for sea fishing. I wanted to ask.
No.
SHTF situation, is everything okay to go and fish?
You don't have to have a license for sea fishing.
Well, I was a member of the. Hang on, let me get the badge.
I know on the East Coast in the U.S. you do now. 10 years ago you didn't. Now you do.
Yeah, you see, they're cutting down in certain countries.
I've been fishing most of my life, sea fishing.
Okay,
and
I'm not.
You don't need a sea fishing license.
It's just funny because when I got I just wanted to tell you a little story. Well, very quickly, hang on, I'll show you. I've got this. Where are we? Oh,
yeah, it was me.
Yeah.
Have I disappeared?
Yeah.
I have disappeared. How did you know I was asking? No, I'm here. Where am I? I'm
Reverse.
still there. Gosh, I'm looking. I'm looking at the screen.
Yeah.
Seeing your symbol, and like, where's my symbol? Look, hello. Right. Yeah. So basically, they said that there's a separate permit for sea fishing. Now you've just corrected me and said there isn't. Well, I got a Environment Agency badge here. Here we go.
I have to go closer. Large screen it.
I'll screen it. All right. Hang on. Is there anything I just don't want anybody to see?
Too late.
Doesn't matter. It's only my name. You know who I am.
So
That was ages ago. It was just an old one.
now then, the Environment Agency's jurisdiction. Yeah, I've never seen that before. I've never ever used a fishing license for sea fishing. Never heard of it or anything.
Yeah, they said to me, I paid 30 quid for a year to get this fishing
All
permit.
right, that's an inland one. That sounds like, because that's how much you pay for an inland
rivers. One. And then they said to me, you can't use this to go fishing in the sea. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, no, you need a separate fishing permit for the sea. I said, huh?
No, that's complete crap, I think.
Okay.
You do
unless they changed it.
No, I don't. I'll keep abreast of them. Sort of. I don't think they have. There are limitations on the size of fish you can catch. That's always been in effect. So, like a bass, for instance, has got a size limit. And it used to be, I think it used to be between 6 and 12 inches or something like that. And even cod as well, that's size restricted. But there's no, I've never heard of a license not for sea fishing. I'm talking about shore fishing, not off boat, by the way.
Yeah, well, but during SHTF situation, I guess there's like just like ham radios, like in a situation, normal situation, you have to have a license to use a ham radio. In an SHTF, in emergency situation, you can use a ham radio. So, in a situation where I'm having to fish in the SHTF, and I haven't got a permit, the army ain't going to come along and say, "Hello, lad, hello."
Oh yeah, I mean,
come here, boy.
It's like, who's going to enforce it? It's just unenforceable, complete.
If they catch me,
really.
Yeah.
I mean, even
America,
ham radios.
You've got yo-yo reels. I think they're great. You ever seen those yo-yo reels, Chef?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about there.
Sorry, PV.
Even ham radios. I mean, in an SHTF environment, in any environment, it doesn't have to be any sort of disaster or anything like that. If life is in danger, you can go up on any radio whatsoever and just talk on it and call in for help or something like that. And when it comes to any sort of disaster, the same applies. But if it's a long-term disaster, obviously, and nothing else is going to return to normality, then who cares? Who's going to enforce it?
I don't think the Marine and Wildlife Commission is going to be running around giving you a citation for
a guy coming out of the bushes.
Their
Hello.
family is starving to death. Yeah.
Oh, hello, sir. You can't use that radio here. It's yeah.
Hello, Chef. Are you having a barbecue? No, mate. I do freeze dry food.
It's the enforcement agency here.
Yeah.
Apocalyptic enforcement agency.
Yeah.
Please show us all your preps right now, or we're going to arrest you.
Right, we're commandeering all your preps now.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Thank you very much. For
now you might get some fake people putting on uniforms they picked up off a body somewhere coming around to try to do that. That could be an interesting situation.
Yeah, definitely. And that will definitely happen.
19. That permit was an old one I just dug up. I've been sort of going through loads of paperwork and chucking stuff away. That was just in a pile. To be thrown away.
And I know in New Jersey you need a they call it an inland waterway fishing license. If you're going to do for little crabs and stuff in some of the little swamp areas, if you're on a small personal boat, staying within 5 miles. But if you go on a commercial fishing charter, you just pay an extra fee. They pay that fee for you. It's like $20, not including how much it costs to go out in the boat and all the other stuff. And it says it right in the guidelines. It's like, this includes your temporary 1 day 12-hour fishing permit for New Jersey's inland waterways, which you're not even in an inland waterway. You're out 4, 5, 6, 8 miles off the shore on the sandbars. But they like to do that because, that's how they make more money.
Yeah.
Hey, Daryl Love, you must have hit the button that says camera and shows rear-facing camera. That's what you did. That's why we're looking at your screen.
Yeah.
I just wanted to show you something. Have you ever heard of mosquito burgers?
No, go on. There was this one.
Have you guys ever heard of mosquito burgers?
I've had a banana my burger, but
right, hang on, I'll show you. Right, this is gonna we're talking about insects, and they gonna want to get us eating insects and stop us eating eat just large screen this and then start it again from the beginning. 1 second, guys.
It's a Black Swan event coming up. You see, what's the implications of this further down the line?
Okay, let me start it from the beginning. If you could, can you put it on big screen, Shadow, please? Oh, sure. There we go. So let me start it again.
You let it go. We saw it. Ew.
Lovely.
I have heard
Midges,
about
flies.
mosquito and bug
Conga
bread.
Conga cakes. Yeah, it might work there. But, I don't think that would work in my local town.
Yeah, that's not going to work around here
Come
either.
on, try one of these cakes. No, it's all right, mate. Hey, Peter, you don't know what you're missing.
I can't see them.
Mate.
Can't see them going down the storm in
Hey,
Wetherspoons.
Shadow, come and try one of these cakes, my brother. That's okay, my friend. All right, sorry, Shadow.
Innate says yum.
Wow. So
It's like, you're on about deception earlier. All these, when they put these ingredients into things and people find out about them, and then all they do is they change the name of the ingredient, but it's the same ingredient.
Yeah, cricket flour. Yeah, that's it.
And the big deception. I mean, yeah.
well, then they got stuff, artificial food. You see places where they actually make artificial salad. You know, people made YouTube videos. They found plastic in their
Now, I found a chunk of white nylon plastic in a brownie once that somebody bought at the store for me. I took a bite out, broke my teeth. I'm like, really? I know what part of the machine that came off of.
Yeah. So I'll turn this camera around. Sorry, guys. Here we go.
There it is.
Not what we are looking for.
Oh, wait, no, put the screen back on.
So there you go. So if you guys had to eat ants,
Well, I mean,
in that case, I need to be really hungry if I'm going to do that.
I mean, we
Locust.
can throw it if you had
Locust.
to do something, would you? I don't know. I'll let you know when it comes to that point. But right now, no.
Okay, if there was a tree, and in that tree, 100 feet up in the air, and there was a honey, would you climb and risk your life to try and get that honey if there was nothing else to eat?
No, I'd probably go find a saw, cut the tree down, and do it from the ground. But that's just me.
Yeah, but bearing in mind that it's a 100-foot high tree.
Bearing in mind these what-if questions irritate the crap out of me.
Okay, then I'll let
What if
someone
there was
else
$1
say
million
something.
on the top of the Empire State Building and all you had was 2 suction cups? Would you go get it?
Yeah, I'll take him in the lift and carry him up there.
Exactly. No, I don't do what ifs and scenarios that really you'll never know until the time exactly arrives. Then you'll make a decision then. Right now, doubt it. I'm sure I could find something else to eat besides a honey swarm of bees on top of a 100-foot tree. And bees don't make hives at 100 feet high. They're usually within 12 to 20 feet.
Well, I was just looking at some of these tribes.
Unless they're in
They've got
Nepal.
this tribe that goes up into this cave, and it's really, really high. And
the ones that eat the bird poop or whatever, and those swifts out in Taiwan.
I think that's Chinese. That is a speciality nest.
Yeah.
And that sells in soup. But there's another place. Finally, those nests are worth a lot of money, by the way.
Yeah, Nepal.
Worth big money. But those guys, they climb literally like I don't know, really, it seems as high as 100 feet just to get honey.
Free climb rock facing. Yep, that's it. With these special swift noodles or whatever they call them from the birds.
They're just climbing up on they're just using straws. I'm only joking. That was a joke. They're not using straws.
It will depend on any sort of thing like that. Or what is the benefit and risk of doing it?
They do it because there's money involved. It's not like it's the most healthy thing in the world, though. So where does this go with black swans again? Oh wait, we're talking about black swans roasted on an open fire. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but what if the bees die? Unexpected. We're talking about unexpected
then you got no
events.
then you got no honey because the honey it'll just disappear. Other animals will get it.
All right. So yeah, I know what you mean. The fact that the pollination collapse and crop collapse, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Right.
pollination collapses, the bees eat their own honey, then they die, so there is no honey.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a theoretical thing. I mean, bees aren't the only things that pollinate.
Right.
So I don't know. I haven't really delved into it. Is it debatable whether or not that would actually collapse the crop system? Or
Nah, probably put a hurting on it in certain areas, but
Was it Einstein said something about it? Was it Einstein?
Right.
I have no idea.
I'm not
I
sure.
think he said something about if the bees die, we're going to die.
Yeah, well, he also came up with other things that turned out.
I'm not. Well, I don't follow. I don't sort of. He's not my god. He's not like. No, I don't know. But I mean, you know, probably something in it. A little bit.
So anyway, I'm waiting for the earthquake swarm, which is wrapping around the United States right now, to start coming up the Appalachian Trail or chain here, and start sparking off earthquakes up in the Northeast here, which is not out of the question at this point.
Earthquakes are a good thing, and a small continuous stream of earthquakes keep the pressure relieved. I'd be more concerned about if they stopped for a while.
Well, that's the East Coast hasn't had any reasonable earthquake except for the one they had in Virginia and one in Jersey within the last few years, but they were like 4.1s and they were deep, so nobody really felt it. But I'm just waiting for other ones to kick off. And
is there a fault line on the East Coast? Is there?
Yep, the whole Appalachian Trail.
Oh, right, right. So the Appalachian,
and it goes all the way from Georgia all the way up to Maine and into Canada.
So the Appalachian Trail is a fault line.
The trail, technically, sure.
Yeah, around about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean the Appalachian Mountain Range, which runs all the way up, all the way from Georgia all the way up to Maine and into Canada. So yeah, it's a mountain range. That's where the plates pushed together and squeezed it up. And there hasn't been any major earthquake here in thousands of years. Right. Meanwhile, California gets them on a hourly basis, little ones, but.
Yeah, well, if something like that was to happen, it'll be a classic, because it'll be large, disruptive, shocking.
Oh,
nobody here's
nothing's built earthquake proof over here. Earthquake
exactly right
at all.
Yeah, the only thing on people's radars is the big things. Everyone's heard of Cascadia.
Yep.
And there are other things that people, the lesser known ones to the general public, that can be just as disruptive and cause just as much damage and wide scale implications, knocking on down the line to power, supply chain issues, and then on to sort of social breakdown scenarios.
Yeah, there'd be a fast social breakdown on the East Coast if that happened, because that's all the main transit routes for trucks and that are up and down, right along the Appalachian Mountain Range. Route 95 runs north and south, 81, 78. There's a whole bunch of them that run up and down. And all it takes is one or two to get wiped out even a little bit, and traffic will just back up for hundreds of miles. So.
Yeah. And that's we haven't even talked about really events from the sun or meteors, comets, asteroids, all this sort of stuff. Satellite disruption and satellite crashes and the implications of that, which is a massive thing, really. If we have this Kessler syndrome satellite cascade crashing system, and that will just be all the low Earth orbits satellites gone, GPS through to timing, monetary systems, and all the knock-on effects from that. Supply chain.
All it would take would be one giant hack to the airline GPS system and change the altitude of all the of all the airports and that, and planes would just be crashing everywhere.
Yeah. Thing is, terrorist events as well. There's someone somewhere constantly 24 hours a day scheming with some sort of new system, method, and device to try and
something to cause mayhem,
bring down the epic society, America, Western countries, and all this sort of thing. Guarantee it. And it's just a matter of time, probably.
Yeah.
Question is, how will what will it affect? How long it's going to last for? How will people deal with it? And people listening here, what have you got in place now to stop it and get yourself up and running and continue going when it does happen? So,
Real love, what are we watching here? Why are we watching your screen? Oh, I know why we're watching your screen. Turn the camera around. Just turn it around.
I was waiting for your reaction.
Yeah, well, there you go. You got it.
You know what? I mean,
that's not helpful on this platform right now.
I think, we're talking about being calm and leadership qualities and all that kind of stuff. You've got to have some kind of humor as well. You can't just,
it doesn't hurt.
A bit of joy. It's almost like, that's the only thing we've got left. They want your tax money, your national insurance money. They want you to be guessing. Why are we guessing? What the government's doing, what these people are doing. We hear stories about the people saying thank you to the newspapers for keeping our stuff secret. We're talking about deception. We're talking about being prepared. We're talking about, Black Swan events, how to be prepared. We haven't got think tanks. I mean, is this a beginning of a kind of a think tank? Or are we sort of trying to be alternative government in some kind of way?
We're a think tank to try to help others to just be as prepared as you can for whatever event may happen in your region. That's all.
I like that. So we're a think tank. That's nice.
Sure.
But we've also got think tanks out there, professionals.
We're not a think tank trying to figure out who caused it. That's irrelevant. Once it happens,
yes,
it doesn't matter. We're here, they're there, and that's all there is. What are you going to do? Just sit there and play the blame game all day long while we're starving to death? That's not helpful.
Well, they're not your mates, are they? I didn't.
Oh, stop.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say to people again, good supply of food. Start off with 3 days worth, build up to a week, on to a month, and you can extend it to whatever time period you like. Depends on how you manage it, how much time you got
and
to
the
manage space to store it. Affordability. You may not be able to afford, to buy that much over a certain period of time. Water supply, you literally cannot go without water, so start building your water supply up as well, or some means to make water drinkable, whether that be filtration, condensing it, whatever.
I've started putting some extra water on the side, so every day I got a certain amount of water. I put into bottles. I've got like 5-litre bottles, and I fill them up with just normal tap water every day. As well as other water, but I'm getting into the habit, especially with the weather getting the way it is. I don't know where you are, if you've had hose pipe bans and stuff like that.
Yeah, we have. Well, I'm in the county in Britain where the hose pipe ban is in place, so we're already getting water restrictions, and it's just coming to another county down south somewhere. So,
Sorry, Chef, I didn't mean to get you upset, Chef, by the way.
Oh, you're fine. I
hope we're still all right.
I just try to quell the rhetoric.
No,
that's all.
I know. I'm just sorry, PV.
So regardless of the cause of the water shortage and all the failings of the company not investing, whatever it is, the writing's on the wall now. There's a water shortage and it's been admitted, etc., etc. As soon as I heard there's a hosepipe ban in place coming up Friday, Thursday evening, I recycled and changed out all my water, made sure every available water container was filled, so that I'm not in a position where contaminated water seeps into the system, or they start shutting off and rationing people, or whatever it is they're going to do. You never know what's going to happen these days. So what ridiculous measures they're going to come out with. Next week they could impose a water tax and all this sort of crap. But
even you never know. I mean, they've got the meters for them. That they're saying they want to start putting these smart meters in people's houses as well.
So no matter what position you're in, water is the key resource, especially in this weather.
Yes.
And people must store water or have some sort of means of making it drinkable. Likewise, power. What are you going to do without power? Lights, cooking. If you're electric cooking, your fridge, your freezer. You take all these things for granted, and the moment any sort of disruption happens, people will shout and scream about it, as opposed to getting on with it and seeking alternative backups.
Or even being, dare I say it, prepared.
Yeah. Well, they want us to be prepared now. They're starting to come out with all sorts of guidelines and stuff. How are people going to cook? They put up gas prices so much nowadays. A lot of people have gone onto electric cooking. What happens when you get a power cut due to temperature fluctuations and all this sort of stuff? You got to have a backup cooker, whether it be wood, have a little stash of wood somewhere to keep you going, or gas bottles just to keep you going. I can imagine, like Bob said, 3 days it takes all the crazies to start coming out and creating havoc.
Yeah.
The 9 meals away from anarchy sort of scenario. And we said before, the clock is ticking. Literally, when something starts to happen these days, the clock is ticking. And it doesn't take a lot these days. You drive down the road in Britain, one vehicle breaks down, and you're faced with massive queues because there's.
Oh yeah.
The system is just so fragile everywhere now, and even then, what uses the roads in Britain mostly is the supply chain trucks, and you add all this together. Your power, your supply chain, food, the water, and if you haven't got the basic preps in place, then you're just gonna die basically, or or worse, should I say, get raped, killed, and then die. So security, along that, basics. We say this every week to people: basics, security lights, cameras, locks on doors, replace the screws, door jams, all this sort of thing. Films on windows.
If you can get a dog, if you can get some kind of training, if you can, exercise a bit more,
Well, yeah, keep yourself fit, healthy. It goes a long way into injury prevention, injury resistance. It increases your acclimatization capacity. It boosts your immune system. Always keep a stash of cash.
Yeah.
Because as even a couple of months ago when a couple of months ago when the big Spanish power outage hit everyone unexpectedly and they're all shocked that it happened, everyone immediately went to cash. Batteries were in a high demand because people were resorting to radios to find out what's going on, and they needed batteries because most of them didn't have wind-up radios or solar panel enhancements.
Cash when the power goes out, especially here in the States. This happened 4 years ago during our Snowmageddon. Power went out. Supermarkets closed. Yeah, they have plenty of food. Everything's digital. If they can't scan it, they don't know how much it is. So they don't know how much to charge in. These kids don't know how to use a calculator to save their butt. So that they just shut the doors, and then all the food went bad. They could have at least just said, you know what? Come on in, hit the frozen aisle, take what you want. We'll charge you accordingly, and you cash only.
Yeah.
But they couldn't. Because it's not how our business runs. We don't know how to do the inventory now. We'd rather just throw everything in the trash and say, collect insurance money on it and just order more. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but power goes out for a long period of time. That's when the riots start happening in the big grocery stores, and now the little mom and pop shops that everything has a label still on it, even though there's a barcode. Yeah, they can still charge you out. I mean, it'd be like they just add it up on a calculator because anybody over the age of 35 knows how to use a calculator. Before that, no, unless it's on their phone or AI tells them how much something is, or the computer does, and they don't even know how to count change back. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yep, nice one, CR, with the water puns there, drop by drop.
So, things like financial preparedness. Everyone. If you listen to any expert, quote unquote expert, and for the last, say, 5 years, all they've been talking about is how the GDP of the debt in most countries, Western countries, is completely unsustainable, and it's going to nosedive and crash at some point. It hasn't happened yet. Well, not since Fannie Mae sort of scenario, but it hasn't happened to the scale which all these so-called experts are saying. So that could be spiked or triggered by some bespoke event non-related to the financial system. So people will look at your financial preparations as well. Your investments, don't just don't put your eggs in one basket, so to speak. Choose wisely.
Yeah.
And if you're going down the digital route of stocks and shares and stuff like that, or digital gold, digital silver, or cryptocurrency, then it's on your head.
Yeah, I'd say avoid all that kind of stuff like a plague. Get your money, if you can, get your money out of the system while you can, because there could come a time, like in some countries, they were going to cash points, going to the bank, and the bank says, we haven't got any money, can't give you it. We can give you a 10 quid today.
Yeah, that was Greece. Greece did that.
Was it South America as well?
I don't remember
Argentina?
America. I know Greece, they shut the banks off, and you can only get so much money out.
Yeah, give
People
me
are lined
5
up at
quid
the
today.
ATM. Yeah.
Cyprus had a bail-in. So on the
They
Friday,
took my cousin's money out of his bank account.
Yeah, I know people who
100
had
grand.
Yep, they had Friday afternoon. The ATMs closed, the banks closed, and then they had the whole weekend. They were trying to formulate this plan where two of the banks collapsed, and the only way to stop complete collapse of the country was to combine these two banks into one bank. And in order to do that, they had to take the money off of the bank account holders.
Yep.
If you had so much money in the bank,
Yeah, over 200 grand. If you had over 200 grand in the bank,
it was less than that, I think, wasn't it? I thought it was something like 10 grand or something.
Anyway,
Anyway, after you had so much money in the bank, they took it off. It took a percentage of that money off you to prop up these combined banks. And you never got it back. And then
they
on the Monday morning, when people found out what was going on, it was too late. So you were then rationed. All the ATMs were rationing people what they could take out per day for a period of months.
Hello, I'll give you just enough to buy yourself a nice shish kebab.
Exactly. And so I mean, yeah, don't hedge your bets. Put your eggs in one basket. I mean, have a stash of cash, fine, but cash is trash when it comes to long term.
In other forms as well, maybe perhaps like I mean, I think corned beef is the future.
Well,
corned beef can last 5 to 7 years after its date.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely great, prepping food. And
well, it is. But cash. Having a stash of cash is okay for emergencies, but don't put a limit on it. Whatever that means.
Yeah, every day you're holding your cash, it's worth. You can buy less. Yeah. I mean,
it's just devaluing.
That currency in the world that's ever gone more than 100. That it finally just completely tanked out and collapsed. USA we're right there.
Yeah, same with us here. I mean, cash is slowly devaluing at an alarming rate. Yeah. So
they're printing more of it, and it's not based on anything. So it's just
again, that's all based on deception. They made us believe that everything was going to be better. Yeah, you've got your full-time job. I used to love getting the brown envelope every Friday. You got 2 hours to go, and your boss starts walking around and says, "Here, chef. Here's your wage packet. The real love. Here's your. Anyway, my name's Costa. I don't care.
Yeah, so I wouldn't, you know, like TV said, I wouldn't just like take all your cash and just hide it in the mattress, because
no,
eventually you're going to be using it for toilet paper, literally.
Yeah.
Venezuela did the same thing. I mean, you know, so did Zimbabwe. I mean, they printed the first $10 billion note in Zimbabwe. You could buy like a half a loaf of bread with it.
Wow.
Yeah. So keep you know, people always say, you know, have a stash of cash. Keep an amount of cash to see you through
The short run,
a limited amount of time, you know, that sort of stuff. And
yeah, keep topped up in all the other in every area, like you said earlier. Your gas, your lighting, your cooking stuff, your water. All the, you know, just keep it all topped up and have more.
yeah, otherwise it's just devaluing, like you said,
the money. Sorry.
says. But you know, I spoke to a food bank a couple of years ago, and one of the biggest items in demand was canned meat goods, and they said it was like gold dust. So, and you know, Daryl says, you know, corned beef will last any can really, if you keep it in the right storage conditions. If it's not showing signs of rust, it's not showing signs of deformity, bulging, or anything like this, then it should be good to go. You know, when the canning process,
it's different now because they've made the cannons different. They've put plastic in it. I mean, some of them, you know, some people are saying they can last for 2 years. Some other people say they can last longer.
Depends on the contents.
Again, with all the deception stuff, what do you do? You know, who do you believe? I mean, yes, I know you're saying the content.
Well, I mean, some cans are heavily plastic lined. Some are lined with a like a lacquer. Some cans, like the acidic contents, pineapple, tomatoes, stuff like that, will not last as long. But I mean, you know, if you're storing cans, then you should rotate them anyway.
Yeah.
So when you know the day the races come and you have to tuck into this food for real-time emergencies, then you should be eating stuff which is a couple of weeks old, not a couple of years old, really, because you should be cycling through it anyway.
Yeah, it's true. Just look out for the.
I'm going for a short bathroom break. I'll be back.
And dents and stuff like that, and also bubbling up as well. You was telling me as well on the bottom of the tin, if the tin sort of bulges out.
Yeah, it starts bulging. You know, you get obviously the canning process. There was some sort of problem in the canning process, or wasn't stored in the right conditions, or it's been bashed about. Then it can disrupt the contents and stuff like that. But generally, cans are, you know, good. Like I said, people should store what they eat and should be rotating that on a regular basis. So when you do have to come to an emergency and start tucking into this stuff, it's not more than, worst case scenario, a year old.
And from my scenario, which I have a totally different scenario than everybody here, is we have canned stuff on the shelves. When it's within like a month or so of expiring, it gets free. I freeze dry it, put it in a pouch, put how much water I need to add to it, and now I got my, you know, my Progresso diddleini whatever soup in there, and I just have to add water. Now I'm good for another 20 years.
Right. Yeah, that's a good scenario to do. Good method to do that. Definitely. And you know, like we said earlier, coming back to Black Swan event type stuff.
That was Sweden for a
minute. Black Swan event type stuff. You know, as soon as you're at your security and safety of your house or wherever it is, then you're down to your EDC or what's on your body or on your vehicle. So you can even go down the generic sort of prep line with that. You know, at least have a bottle of water with you. At least have, I don't know, say a face mask or eye protection, some sort of goggles, maybe a pair of heat-resistant gloves, first aid kit and stuff like that. It depends on how much you can carry. I mean, I carry around a day sack no matter where I go, and so I've always in there. I've got a litre of water in a stainless steel bottle, first aid kit, which is a trauma pack. I've got, you know, slash-proof gloves, which also heat-resistant Kevlar gloves. For you know, a length of paracord, some duct tape, some fire escape masks, which are also CBRN escape masks, an umbrella, Various things, a small multi-tool. I carry a Swiss Army knife because it's legal to carry around and hasn't got a locking blade and this sort of thing. You got to still adhere to the law wherever you are. So, having some sort of basic preps on your body as well. Your EDC will go a long way. Communication, small spare power bank. Because if you're in an area where you're unable to move, locked down, it might be an active shooter where you're locked down somewhere, or you're trapped anywhere like that. Your battery in your phone will only last so long. Have a small power bank as a backup, and your phone will be invaluable because that's your key. You're linked to the outside world, sort of thing. You can find out what's going on. You can call for help if you've got a signal and so on. You've got a torch on it. You may have some apps on it to help you out. So have a power bank, and you just expand it. I mean, in a day sack, you can put quite a lot in there, and it's a day sack, a small rucksack or whatever. Just don't start walking around with a a Bergen full of stuff that weighs so much that it's just going to hinder you, because A, you'll look like an idiot, B, you won't use half the stuff, and you can even have a small. I mean, I carry also a small tin with some basic medication in there. Not that I need. I'm not any prescription medication, but I carry some paracetamol or acetaminophen, some dispersible aspirin, stuff like that, and stuff for upset stomachs, stuff for the shits, basically, some Imodium. Just stuff like a bit creative. As people go along, they'll start to. If in doubt, start off with the contents of a woman's handbag, and you'll get the idea of what people generally need on a daily basis. But there's plenty of videos out there. You got to mold it to your sort of scenario, really.
It's true. I go on the underground sometimes in London. So in my backpack, I sort of include a head torch.
Yep.
Hands free, just in case. On the London Underground, we don't have the greatest air conditioning. We're not really prepared for really hot weather. So, having extra water, like you're saying, things like first aid, and even like wipes. I tend to have wipes everywhere. These things are really handy. If you need to wash, clean your hands a little bit, wipes are very handy.
Yeah, there you go. You see, if you're on the underground, you're obviously, people got to think about this sort of thing. If the power went out and something would happen on the underground, what would happen? Right, I'll be in the dark, so I'll need a torch. Something's happened to cause all this, so it might have been some sort of disruptive event. So I might need a first aid kit because there might be casualties. I might need some goggles. There'll be loads of dust in there. I might need a face mask, so I'll be breathing in all this crap. I might need fireproof gloves or heat-resistant gloves, because in the event of a fire, you're touching objects and surfaces for escape, and just you build it from there, and thrash through it. Think about it. Yeah, it's well worth doing.
Yeah, even things like, I mean, I have been thinking about it, even getting some kind of smoke mask. But I mean, I'm not on the underground as much, so then if I was using it more often, I would have got things like smoke masks, because there's been some very disastrous fires in London as well. In King's Cross fire, I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Some years back, they had wooden escalators back in the day. I don't know if in they had wooden escalators, and I think it was something about cigarettes. Someone threw it because of cigarettes. They keep throwing the cigarettes down the escalators, and then after that, they kind of banned smoking on the underground.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, when you're in an enclosed underground area like that,
Was that a Black Swan event? The King's Cross fire?
Well, yeah, I suppose it is.
Fire?
I suppose it is, really.
No one saw that.
A smoke escape mask definitely makes sense on the underground system.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about getting one of those escape masks. But I mean, like I said, I don't use the underground that often. But if I do go on the underground, I've still got my EDC. I mean, even just going up the road, even getting on a bus, if I have to, I've still got my EDC everyday carry. Even things like survival blanket in it as well. one of those big orange ones. They just expand.
Right. Well, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, a silver foil blanket to go along with the first aid.
The trick is to I don't know. Get obviously get multi-use items to avoid yourself carrying loads of gear for a start off. The trick is to balance it out, weigh up the risks versus what you got to carry and how much you can afford to spend on all this stuff that you may never need. You know, some stuff will be essential and some stuff will be convenient stuff. Some stuff will be life-saving in the event of, like, you know, some stuff will be essential, like a bottle of water, for instance. Maybe a phone for comms. Some stuff will be nice to have. Yeah, it's definitely a balance. And
yeah, I don't carry all that stuff every day. I mean, for example, just behind me, which I'll grab in a second, very briefly, I'll show you. There's a couple of things that if I do go on the underground, I'll just quickly whack them into my EDC carry. But like everyday carry, just go out with my dog. If I'm not on the tube, if I'm not on the train, I'll leave them at home. But what I'll do is I'll quickly just grab them and show you. Yeah, it's just basically just another couple of pouches, just quick and easy, like a bit more extra sort of first aid stuff in this one, and in this one like a face mask and other bits and pieces, goggles, safety goggles, PPE stuff, gloves, goggles, ear protectors in this bag, and in this one I have more sort of you know, meds, medication, first aid, Israeli bandage in there somewhere on this side, small one, and things for teeth. All, you know, so if I'm going to go on the underground, I'll include that. If I'm going sort of a long day out, I'll include this too.
Yeah, it's a good system to have. You know, people, you can have a collection of EDC gear in your house, and then just pick and choose what you're going to take out of that pile. Yep. Depending on where you're going to go and stuff like that.
And by the way, these pouches, I made them. If CR is still watching, I made them from a jacket that I was throwing away, and basically it was a packable jacket. So the jacket packed down into this pouch. So when the jacket just really basically was falling to pieces, I sort of salvaged the pouch and then used it for, you know, a first aid kit. Same with the pocket pouch. There's a little pocket and it's got a zipper on there as well.
See, I'll be impressed with that.
And then I made it into a pouch. So in here is like a kind of PPE pouch.
Jessica, prepping, good to see you, man.
First aid stuff, yeah. So you never know, like you're saying, if you go on the train, I do think like that. I think, well, if I go on the train and the train electricity, you know, there's no, you know, power goes, I'm stuck. That's why the first thing I said was a torch.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to come out, bam, on the head. Got spare batteries there just in case, you know, but I never keep the batteries in it anyway. And an extra bottle of water. So if I'm going to go on a train, and of course, a good reason for having water in London, well, I won't go on anymore, but we've been having some acid attacks. So having some water with you as well is good as well. A lot of water.
Good point.
Yeah, if you got for your first aid kits and stuff, if it's an emergency first aid kit, if you have a seal meal, best thing ever. You put like your gauze and bandages and stuff in a seal meal bag, seal it down. It'll suck all the air out of it, keep it waterproof, and it compacts it really tight. So you can fit a lot in there. Now, once you open it, it's going to puff up like a marshmallow. But
you won't believe how much stuff I've got in this pouch. I don't want to, you know, like you just said, there is a, if I open the pouch itself, and like there's like things like a mosquito head net in there.
Yep.
But, you know, okay, I might be somewhere in the bushes and it's summertime and I'm getting attacked by midges. Like Israeli bandage, like I said.
Yeah, but if you put that mosquito netting in a seal meal pouch and then vacuum seal it, it'll take up even less space. That's all I'm saying. Is
yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's
pack your stuff tight.
Yep.
And not worry
there
about
are other
it.
sort of
Waterproof
bags,
and
like you
doesn't
said.
take up much space.
Sounds like High Country Homestead has got an interesting scenario there. I have 80,000 litres of water stored across 4 water tanks. Sounds
great.
Good. So anyway, I've got to split, and I'll have to catch up with you all later on. But
yeah, I'm gonna. Sunday caught me off guard there, Shadow. But PV, it was good to see you.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Good to see you, PV.
Yeah, no worry, Marks. We'll catch up with you in a bit. And I've still got a bit of a groggy throat from this virus I had last month. Anyway.
You take care, PV.
You take care, PV.
Yeah, no worries. Give us a message me, DS.
Yep.
Right. Cheers, Shadow. See you in a minute, Mark.
All right, later.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna bail here too because I got my wife's home and she's like, Sunday you got to do this. I'm like, I know. Okay.
I know.
Saturday usually works and I'm by my own, so I can do whatever I want while I'm talking. But I can't even go in the house right now because she just got off of work 3 days in a row, 12-hour shift. So she's kind of like, just leave me alone. I'm like, okay. Let me go out and do the shopping, go water the gardens at her hospital and stuff, and take care of all the stuff I do. So it was good to see you. Send me another link next week. And sorry to hear you had to go through whatever yesterday. I'm not going to get into it. You probably said it in the beginning. I missed it.
Take care, Chef. Have a nice
Take care, Chef.
rest of it.
Later. You too. Bye.
Later.
Yeah, up to you, Shadow. If you want to have an early one, you tell us. Yeah, very interesting subject.
Yeah, it is. I think we run for another 19 minutes.
Let's get CR on. Come on, CR.
I'll send them the link on their usual place.
Yeah, I look at all my stuff that I'm going to throw away and I'm thinking, well, can I get something out of this? And, material. I mean, yeah, that's great. That guy says somewhere that he's got all that water stored. I believe there's going to come a time water is going to be more valuable than gold.
Water will be gold. Because everybody needs water.
Big time. I mean,
and water will be highly valuable resource, especially if you have clean water.
Yeah. I mean, how many of us has ever really been thirsty? I mean, we might have gone a day and said, I'm really thirsty, and straight away we could walk into our kitchen, what have you, and just grab water. Places where we could just get water just like that, but there are places today where there's still people literally dying of starvation. There could be someone laying in a hut now who would love to have a drop of water. Yeah.
Susan says they are handy. My biggest problem is the freight to get them here, and my driveway is so steep. Okay. She's talking to Tuck. A cool secret is you can collect water off of clear plastic tarping or plastic sheeting spread over a large area. Dip it in the middle with a hole and a bucket under the hole. You will catch a dew. Yeah, I'm familiar with that setup. Raise the sheeting or tarping up a few feet off the ground and lift the corners higher and let the middle drop to a bucket. If you can do this over a somewhat green area, you'll have better results. Yeah. And CR says, be right back. And then it's that time. Okay. The bud flies. Hey, good to see you. Thanks for dropping in, by the way. Yes, that is a very good technique. I have done that while camping. Actually, talking to the Aquatic News Network. Texas to Susan, my friend in North Carolina was going to buy one, but between the price and the 6-month wait, he bought 2 good sheds. Okay. I was a dead gum raised off in the damned old woods. Okay. I used to buy single-serving instant coffee, but I bought tiny Mylar pouches and make my own at fraction of a cost. Well, Tech, that is a good idea to do. Saving money. But anyway, speaking of water, you need something to purify it with. And that requires water filters. And you might need to disinfect the water. In that case, you need what they call water purification tablets. But in the reality, they just disinfect the water. To purify it, you need a water filter, preferably a good one.
You can use get some bleach as well, I believe.
Yeah.
A little drop of bleach in a liter.
Yeah, you call it bleach in UK and US. Here we call it just chlorine.
Okay.
KLORIN. It is the same thing.
I guess CR doesn't want to come on.
Yeah.
No, when I say I'll be right back, it's that time, you know.
I heard him. Is he there? That's CR.
Hi.
Hey, brother.
I thought so. I thought I changed my icon. I thought I changed my icon. There we go. That's more like it. It's just like you guys were talking about it.
Water
Hello, Sassy.
Yeah, bleach.
Yeah.
You got a drop of bleach, and then you can get what's that stuff you can get to make your own bleach, but it's pretty dangerous making bleach. I don't know.
Pool shark.
That's the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's another thing too. There's an electronic device to make the reaction, so you can get what's it called? Hypochlorite.
Hypochlorite.
No. Whatever. Anyways, I saw it on one of the bigger channels. He was showing it as an example where you put salt water and you can get basically bleach out of it, right? It's a way of so you don't have to carry bleach itself, right? Because if you're carrying bleach, you gotta carry it in a certain container and stuff like that, and you don't want to spill it, right? This is a way to make it on demand, but also you need salt and salt water to do it, right? So, but it's easier to carry salt than like bleach.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
To have some.
Yeah, and something like bleach, you gotta, the one or like the drops that they say usually it depends on the clarity of the water.
Right.
Obviously, when you're getting water, ideally you want to get something that's like as clear as possible to start with.
Yeah. Like
You know,
maybe
and you
tap
remove
water, some tap water that's been in a cupboard for months. Because
something like that. Because if there's like debris and stuff in it, obviously you want things like pre-filtering as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
Because it goes the same with any water treatment or water purification tablet. Those instructions are usually for fairly clear type
clear
of water.
water. Yeah.
Yeah, because anything like dirt or debris that is in there, there's like spores and the bacteria can be on the inside, and the treatment can just affect the outside and doesn't penetrate like through like a grain of sand or something like that. What's it say?
Yeah.
would a river turning red blood be a Black Swan event?
Well, if you
Probably.
if you think about it, that is actually possible for some areas because of, let's say, mineral deposits or heavy metals and stuff like that, where the water changes color.
It's
I've been
happening in
watching.
China.
I've been watching documentaries about that. There is certain places,
Wow.
right? And you can,
Okay.
and the thing is about like chemical or like heavy metals and stuff like that. You can't just simply boil or use water treatment, water purification tablets, or even bleach, because it doesn't. Remember, you have to quote unquote filter or distill that out, right? Because boiling just concentrates it. Water purification is like tablets, like some of those tablets that Bob showed the previous week, and other things like that.
Tabs.
Yeah, that's only for biological contamination. It doesn't remove pesticides, heavy metals, and stuff like that, right?
No.
So you gotta keep that in mind when you're using that kind of stuff.
And your source, your water source, having you know, I mean, are people going to become scientists to know what water is, how to treat water? Wow, I got some water. CR. Yeah, where'd you get it from? I got it from this red river up the road.
Hey, the real, I don't think it's ready. Oh, Bob would so fire me. Mark would be like,
more of that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, but it's something to keep in mind because, you know, just because you got a water filter, you know, and water treatment or anything like that, you got to make sure, okay, what was in the water or what could be in the water?
Exactly. I got a cat.
And you might not even know. You might not even know.
Anything. I got a cat that cost me $3,000.
Well, see, another thing about filtering water is generally, even this applies to even reverse osmosis, even on desalination, right? They run all that stuff through pre-filter. Even your water treatment plant in a city or town, they run it through a pre-filter. Everything runs through a pre-filter because they're handling like seawater or sewage water, right? So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's amazing how they could get like sewage, drinking water from really dirty water. You know. So
well, all water we have is technically recycled or reused from sources like a river and stuff like that. I'm just saying it's
it is.
Right? Yeah. It is, right? All the water we use is recovered or recycled from our sources, right?
Yeah.
People kind of forget about that.
If you could collect a minuscule amount of saliva from the sea, which I doubt is completely impossible to even get traces of it. But if it was possible, I just found saliva from someone from Hawaii. And, see movements of people. They trace DNA like that. But yeah, that's all right. I'll shut up now.
Yeah.
Like, saliva's a bit. But in the river, it's this. When you think about it, it's all recycled.
Yeah, and to always consider pre-filtering whenever possible, especially if you got the time for it. Because another thing is, not only do you remove stuff, but if you're using a water filter, it doesn't matter if it's well, any of the brands out there, right? Doesn't matter if it's Grail, Sawyer, Lifestraw, Canadine, all this stuff, right?
WebTech says it's a UK-based company. WebTech, they sell water filters as well, but it's like the live straw type.
Berkey, there's that Zero brand, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Usually their capacity and like how much they can do. Usually that's based on like clear water, right? If you're putting mud and water in, you're gonna definitely reduce.
Damage it.
Well, not damage it, but you'll definitely reduce the lifespan of it, right?
Yes.
Because like if you really think about like this Black Swan event, right? Let's just say, because originally I didn't know what this was, then I'm like, oh, this means kind of like I said in a nutshell, like it's like a more extreme situation that's kind of more widespread, I guess, right? Because something like this, like, it's probably gonna be a lot more long term, generally speaking, right? It's not gonna be quite in that range. It's not 72 hours. It's probably gonna be like 72 days or more, right? So if you're using something like a water filter, you probably want to pre-filter as much as possible, just to extend the lifespan of it, right?
Yeah, I would pre-filter if I'm going to use my water filter.
Whenever possible. Yeah, whenever possible.
It's a good idea to go for a mill bank before you actually use your filter. I mean, if you've got a mill bank, if you don't know what a mill bank is, it's basically got like made a sort of canvasy type material, and it looks like a sort of big sock. And you basically it gets rid of the leaf, the woody stuff in the water.
Because you'll get more bang out of your buck out of it, right? Because like I said, if you start putting mud water or like heavy sediment for your water filter, it doesn't matter which one it is, right? You're eventually gonna reduce the flow rate because it's not start clogging through the chamber. Doesn't matter if it's ceramic or one of those hollow fiber, right? Eventually, right. That's why I do like brands like Sawyer. Like if you get a Sawyer type of filter, it comes with that backflush syringe and stuff like that. Backflush it, rinse it with clean, clear, fresh, good water again, right? It's to preserve the lifespan of it. Because if it's like a really long-term event, it is possible that you might go through that lifespan quicker than you think. I mean, like, okay, 100,000 gallons may be a long time, but I mean, like, some of the herb brands, at times, they're less because they can do more. But, like I said, pre-filtering does help whenever possible. I mean, like...
And remembering when you store water purification tablets, don't store a big amount. For example, don't go and buy 1,000. Think I'm going to buy 10 boxes and have 10,000, aqua tabs, and then only to realize that a year later they're going to expire and then be wasted.
Yeah. I mean,
a small amount. Say, right, the last 2 years. When I say a small amount, I don't know, 100 tabs. They cost like $6.99, $10, £10, I don't know, 15 quid. But if you buy 100, okay, let's say you buy 200. If in 2 years they expire, you're not going to waste as much money as if you bought 10,000 of them.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're unless you're actually going to be using them, traveling around the world, like, that kind of thing, right?
Exactly,
because you can't store that long term.
Exactly, you've got to use them up. A lot of people don't. I've got a friend who said, "I'll give up on water tabs." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, they got an expiry date." I said, "Well, you just got to use them like before they expire, or."
Yeah, I mean, like, keep just enough, right, on it, right? I mean, because I think you can overdo something like that because, like I said, they technically do expire. Or they're less effective, or the fish potency reduce, or whatever. It's probably similar to, like, painkillers and stuff like that. Probably the effectiveness goes down, and they can't guarantee that. So
Yeah, not only that, like it's important to check your preps all the time, rotate, check the dates. First aid stuff. Check the dates of any sort of medication you got. If they
yeah, don't
do,
assume.
rotate them. Put it in your notepad. Say write in your diary. So when you're sort of going through your notes or whatever, you say, "Oh, okay, I need to get some diarrhea tablets. These ones will run out."
Yeah. Well, because the thing is, like, if you have any sort of, well, I guess it would be everyday carry a go bag, get home bag, get a Dodge bag, 72-hour kit or whatever, right? Because these things, like even a first aid kit or a fire kit or wire kit or anything like that, it's because usually this stuff is grouped together. Some things you just don't see on an everyday basis, right? So things can shift, spill, pop open, get oxidation in it, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. It could be as simple as like even I know Mark said about like vacuum sealing stuff. Like what happens? It's like, oop, I got a nick in it and some air got in. You didn't. I mean, most of the time it's not gonna be like that, but I mean, like it could be that kind of oops. There's a pinhole and now air got back into it, right? And next thing you know, it's like I thought I vacuum sealed this, right?
Yeah, or a dent.
Stuff.
Oh, little dent. You let rust build up.
Yeah, especially if it's going like a get home bag or something like that, and you get in your vehicle in like 40 Celsius, 104 Fahrenheit, right? Well, the temperature just skyrocketed up. Things like, let's say, like a Mylar space blanket, like let's say a disposable poncho, let's say if you had something like that, the temperature could be high enough where the material could start sticking together and like maybe you almost fusing together, especially if it's vacuum sealed because it's got the pressure and now there's heat and it could like. It is possible.
There is stuff that's sort of plastic that sort of you leave it for so long and all of a sudden you sort of touch it and it's sticky. It's like, well, what's happened? It's been in one of these sort of like plastic bags. What do you call those bags? Ziploc bags.
Yeah, because it is possible. Because
like
remember,
the air gets in, the moisture.
Yeah, something like that. And like I said, if it's vacuum sealed, it's basically like pushing against each other. The material's pushing against each other. Maybe some friction in there, some heat from the environment, and next thing you know, it's just like, and you go use it, it's like sticky or like fused together, almost to a certain degree.
So there's a balance. There's a balance. There's these guys that have done these videos on like 1945 sort of RAF emergency jackets.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got all these like loads of stuff in it, It's all sort of, well, obviously, if it's 1945, it's going to be well old and stuck together. But yeah, it's a fine balance. Like we were saying earlier as well, don't put all your.
That's why you got to check on the stuff every so often.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you got to check on everything.
See, this is the reason why I did this Arab video, because like there's this like Arab videos I tried this out and I have a video on it explaining it more, right? But to sum it up, right, there was these videos out there early on when I started the channel, and they're like okay, cargo tape, duct tape, right, 1 to 10 C's, right? Tape's nice, cargo tape, duct tape, blah blah blah, right? Yeah. And people were always saying like, oh, put it on a piece of wax paper or whatever, right? I tried that before, right? And basically what happened, because I had it in a wallet or in a case so long, the heat from my body, it started to fuse it together. Like I could not separate it cleanly. Yeah, because I needed it to use it when I had a cut on my finger. I was just like, oh, I was just gonna use tape just to kind of, because I was sweating, right? Because I was actually at a bar playing pool, right? And it failed. I was just like, I mean, I had something else, but I mean, like, what happens if that was a different situation where I really needed the tape, right? So it failed on me. That's why I stopped doing the wax paper method of doing it, and I use vinyl now. A vinyl, like on a binder, I use that material because I had not had issues of it fusing together. Because wax paper is still paper, right? So basically what happened was the paper would give way, but the tape's no longer sticky. because it's that part has stuck to it, and basically I just removed the paper part. With the vinyl, I've not had issues with it ever removing it now, because it doesn't fuse like that. I mean, obviously, you know, if I increase the temperature to like 60 Celsius, maybe, but I mean, like, you know, it can last in my pocket. It can last in the bag. I can, you know what I mean? So that's why I started doing it like that. And that's why I started to do it. I made a video a long time ago, a couple years and years back, showing that. It was just like, because it failed on me. I was just like, because I saw what people did. And I was just like, I tried it out. It didn't work for me. I didn't like that. Right? So sometimes, you know, yeah.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
You know,
try stuff for yourself, right? I mean, if it doesn't work for you, then change it out, right? Until you can find something that can work for you, right? Because ideally, like, prepping is like obviously planning ahead or whatever, right? And, you know, food, water, all this stuff, but knowing what works for your area, right? What can happen, you know, stuff like that. Because like I said, I tried it. I was just like, nope. So I've never gone back to that. You know, because one of my comments I got in that video was someone tried it and they're like, and they reopened it and they're like, oh yeah, you're right, Sierra, I did do that. I'm like, yeah, because it doesn't work at times. You know, it doesn't work all the time, and that's why I'm like, nah, it's not reliable enough. So it's not even worth it. Not even worth doing it. So.
Yeah, I've had to throw away stuff over the years where, you know, you kind of learn what keeps, what doesn't keep, how to keep it, how to not keep it. You know, we've all maybe had a leaky battery in our lifetime, in amongst our kit somewhere. You know,
or a container of water or whatever.
Something leaked.
I you know what? I actually have a story too, which I don't usually mention, but I had this water bottle, right? Like, because I was going somewhere with a friend, right? There wasn't room in the truck, so I actually had to put it in the bed of the truck, right? It was raining, so I'm like, okay, I got my backpack, right? So I just put it in a plastic bag, tied off the top to put it inside, right? Because it's raining outside, and it's an open bed, right? I didn't want my bag in wet, right? And I discovered when I opened it, I'm like, why is my bag wet? I sealed it with a garbage bag. It should be good, right? my bottle leaked. I mean, it was just a liter of water, but the thing is, something like that, right? And now I had to empty out all the contents and let my bag dry overnight, and put everything back in my bag at the morning after, right? But that just showed us, it's like, yep,
stuff happens.
Well, but the thing is, I was smart enough to seal everything in like a baggie or away from water, right? So basically, I just had to dry out the bag, like my flashlight, my wind-up flashlight, the food, whatever I had in there, never got wet because they were all sealed or vacuum sealed or whatever, right, in the baggie. So I had that kind of contingency plan in there, right? I was like, oh, I'm going to, you know, was smart about that, right? Because let's just say, like, food or whatever, right? Batteries or whatever. Well, maybe not batteries, but like a headlamp or a torch that was just openly there in the open, right? Without it being sealed in the baggie.
Yeah.
I would have got water over it, right?
Yeah, I've got baggies.
Yeah,
within
because
baggies, and then within a sort of waterproof sack.
Yeah. Because I've learned that.
The important stuff, the stuff that can soak water, you need to have that.
Yeah, something like even a lighter,
like
too.
Said, like having it sealed really well. I mean, my stuff, the important stuff is waterproof, and like you know, I put it in I got a little dry sack, and then you've got your backpack, and then on top of your backpack, you've got one of those water bags. If you've got one on your back,
yeah, like something like a dry bag and stuff like that, right?
You can just throw one over your bag. They're great.
Yeah. Because see, I have another story where like I went out camping and this sudden storm came and there was like major. It was raining technically, but it's actually the wind damage, right? So and technically I had to bail from that camping trip, right? But the thing is, something like that, and you're trying to repack everything, right, real quick, right? I'm like, oh, So my clothes were just out because I laid them out for the camping trip, right? For that night or whatever, right? It was just easily, I had a dry bag. I just stuffed all in the dry bag. I'm like, because it's raining and I'm like trying to move things from a tent to a vehicle, right? But I have to be exposed to the elements like the rain, right? It wasn't pouring, but the thing is, at least my clothes were dry, right?
Yeah.
Like my change of clothes, right? Like my clothes I was wearing were wet, but once we got back into quote unquote civilization back in town or whatever, back home, I changed those wet clothes into dry clothes, and then I felt better because my clothes were wet, right? Yeah, and the thing is, I was wearing a wool sweater, right? But it's saturated, right? Yeah, wool is still relative. They say 80%, right? Well, that's still only 80%. I'm still 20% cold. All right. There's still moisture next to my skin. Right. It's probably like, let's say, under less than 16 Celsius, 60 Fahrenheit, probably 50, 10 Celsius. Right. Like the sun's not out. It's like windy out and stuff like that. And I'm like wet for the last hour doing all that stuff, right? So it's just I'm like, oh, thank goodness I put my dry clothes into a dry bag because I just basically changed it into them once I got a chance, right? And I felt better, you know what I mean? So
It's good also to have garbage bags, dustbin bags, the big thick ones
the contractor bags, bin bags, 55 gallon. It's
so if you're in a real hurry, you can just quickly throw it in a bag before it even gets in your backpack. If you really in a rush.
Yeah, because some situations your lead time's not as much as you think, right? And sometimes you don't want to, ideally if you were camping, it's nice, you'll fold it up nicely, but sometimes you're in a rush or whatever, right? And you're just I'll do it when I get back into town, back at the house, back to my apartment or whatever, right? I've seen people have to do that, and I can understand why now. People bring those bin bags and stuff like that, trash bags and stuff like that, for example, right? Like, even if you just got it lining your bag or whatever, like a bin liner or something like that. I know the ultralight campers, hikers, they have like a liner in their bag, right? This is just if the contents get wet and whatever, right? Or then you might be screwed even more, right? You know what I mean? So
you need to have them change your clothes big time.
Yeah. Like wool might be still warm when it's wet, but dry clothes were always better. Right, dry clothes are still dry clothes, right?
It's amazing how many things we take for granted. I was saying to Shadow earlier, I think I said it to Shadow earlier, where I was saying, we've not experienced thirst. How many people have experienced thirst or getting caught out really in heavy sort of weather and.
I've been soaked in less than slightly under 10 degrees Celsius, like 49 Fahrenheit, right? It was windy out, right? I mean, eventually I put on a contractor bag because that's what I had at that time, right? But when I got back, I was just I was still wet, and I'm like, yeah, I'm starting to get cold because the water's just been pulling the heat away from me all the time. Because as soon as I stopped moving, then I started to feel it because now I'm not exerting energy, right? Metabolic energy to do stuff, right? So it's just so as soon as I got back, I was just I quickly changed into dry clothes, right? Because I'm I can't keep wearing these wet clothes because it's just pulling heat away from me now, right? And that wasn't even that long, but the thing is, that was still above freezing, right? Here, I live here in Canada, right? You're supposed to be used to the cold sea, right? Well, I mean, if you're wet and it's windy, well, you might, you forget about that. Sometimes you forget about that, right? Now obviously, if it was below freezing, maybe it would have been worse. But it was because it was a sudden storm. I just got caught in between going places. I was just Ever since then, I make sure to bring a poncho with me. Right. So that way I don't have to improvise.
Yeah,
right?
I'm like the same.
You know,
I've got a good sort of rain jacket and a sort of backup plastic sort of poncho as well, the sort of emergency stuff. But
yeah.
I do carry a rain jacket, a little packable rain jacket, even in the summer
Well, I mean, the
in
thing is,
London.
yeah. I mean, sometimes, like, I remember one time, like, there's that chance at times, like, no matter how good the weather forecast is, 10% chance. Well, it just turned to
Yeah,
100%, and you just
Yeah.
happened to get caught in it,
yeah,
right? It was a little bit more than expected. It became something more like pouring rain or heavy shower or heavy rain, right? Where you like if you're not wearing certain little things, you're gonna get soaked. And if it's cold enough, windy enough, technically it could pull heat away from you fast enough. It is possible, right? It is possible. For the same reason, like you can get hypothermia or get cold even in, let's say, 21 degree, or 70 Fahrenheit water, right? It just takes a little bit more time to get cold because the water temperature is like not that far down, compared to ice water, but in time.
And it depends on the wind.
Yeah, exactly like that. Anyone that's
yeah,
been stuck in the ocean or whatever, they always say within time, for explorers you can do something, but in time you start getting exhausted. The heat starts to pull away from your body because there's so much water around you or on you, and water will pull heat away from you, especially if it's cold, if the water temperature is colder than your body temperature. In time, it will. The closer it is to your body temperature, the longer it takes, right? 21 Celsius, 70 Fahrenheit is different from like 50, 10 Celsius, 32, 0 Celsius, and so forth, right? But the lower it is, the temperature of the water, the faster it is. But the closer it is to your body temperature, it takes a little bit longer. But in time, it will, because it's physically your body's rate. The heat's escaping from hot to cold in this case, right? So the water's warmer. I mean, colder, right? Technically than your body, so it's leaving you. It just will go longer in 21 Celsius or 70 Fahrenheit water, but in time it will. It's just a matter of time, right? That's why when people get found like that, they're exhausted, right? At times, maybe even shivering to a certain degree, right? Because they've been in the water for so long. So it's something to keep in mind.
yeah. I've been
Sorry, I
caught
didn't bring
out
up.
in London. I've been caught out a few times. Well, a few times, yeah. And then I sort of said from then on, I'm going to always carry some kind of light rain, jacket.
Mm.
You get different kinds of rain.
Yeah,
You get this rain
because
that
I
sort of
mean,
rains and you don't get as wet. But then you get some type of rain. It seems like one drop is like a bucket.
oh
And you
yeah.
soak
Remember,
instantly.
yeah, raindrops can be different in size, right? Sometimes
Yeah,
it can be a little bit later, but the drops are bigger. So
yeah,
like, and but then there's certain times where it's like so like small the drops, and it's just very light, and it's just like you're barely even getting wet, but it's raining.
yeah,
Well, like a light shower, or it's fast
yeah,
spitting, right?
Yeah.
But it's those big drops, and it's fast. Yeah, basically, like if you're not wearing anything, like if you're just wearing a hoodie, you're soaked within 10 seconds.
yeah.
All right,
I've
and the
had
next
to
thing you know, you're
experience
soaked.
that. And also going through different types of waterproof jackets was a bit of a nightmare because not all of them do what they say on the packet. Even some of the even some of the expensive rainproof jackets are not very rainproof. I mean, in the end, I ended up finding a great company. I'm not plugging them, Shadow or anything like that, but it's a cheap.
Mm,
Um, but it works. They're Regatta. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. Outdoor
no,
clothing.
yeah,
But basically, they do a suit, trouser, and I found I've this sort of discovered not only have you got to be careful with the rain in the UK, you've also got to be careful with the types of clothing you buy. I've had so-called waterproof trousers, and then I used to ride bikes as well, and might go to work and back. you know, years back when I used to ride a bike to work. Some of the waterproof stuff was terrible. You just got soaked when it
Or
really
it would
comes, like you
saturate
said.
in.
Yeah,
Like
like you
15
said.
minutes is 15 minutes is like, but like if you're outside longer, as it gets wet, it starts to soak in or saturate through
Yes,
it.
yes.
Yeah,
And like
that's
you
yeah. I actually realized that with one of my ponchos. I thought it was more waterproof. I'm like, no. If it pours
hate that.
in time, it will. I mean, if it's late rain, I'd be good, right? But that's why I'm like, because I actually have it in a bag, right? But because I have alternative and contingency plans, I also have a garbage bag in that bag. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I would add that on, right? I'd be like, now I
Yes.
know, right?
Yeah.
Something like that, right? That's why it's just like, yeah. Like I would put it underneath me, then put a bunch on, and at least I'll know for sure, right? I'll have 2 layers, not just one.
because like if you've been caught out, for example, if you've had a job interview, or if you've had somewhere a course to go on, and you know all of a sudden it's bucketing down with rain, and you know who wants to turn up somewhere soaking wet?
I mean, on a job interview, something like that, I think people would understand to a certain degree, right? But I mean, like, you just don't want to be dripping into the office like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
not you know, I know there would be understanding and all that, but you just don't need it. You know, it's just you know.
Yeah,
I
that
just,
just the
I just
hassle of it, just the
exactly.
hassle of
You
it,
just
you know,
being
like and stuff like that, and it's just like, you know, like, you know, like, uh, you know,
I handed one out the other day. There was a guy who was like, I think he was doing work in the block. He was like a kind of contractor, and
mhm.
you know, he wasn't really prepared for the weather. And I see him standing outside the block, round the back of my block, and I said, "You okay there?" And he started bucketing down. He goes, "Oh, it's really raining heavy." I said, "Then you got a rain jacket?" He said, "No, it was like sunny earlier." so,
Well,
so I said, "Wait there." So running. I mean, obviously, I don't have spare sort of proper jackets to give out to people, but I did have one of those plastic
at least something that might help a
ponchos.
bit.
Yeah,
Was
I
he
said, "Yeah."
still? So he
He
basically he
grabbed
was
it. He
just
loved it. He said, "Yeah, thanks, mate."
yeah. You know, and somebody if you think of it, like even if it's just like to help you get back home or just to buy you time
Exactly.
until it
Yeah.
stops raining, right? It
Yeah.
might be well worth it, right? It might like $1 whatever amount, right? It might be well worth it,
You
even
know
if it's a
what's really
garbage bag.
funny? Another quick story as well. You know, and then I was in Ibiza, and there's like sun every day, summer over there. You know,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I had a little backpack, and it started bucketing down in Ibiza. I was like, "What? It's raining. It doesn't, you know, hardly rains there." Well, you know,
Well,
it was all sunny all the time, and then all of a sudden I went shopping and with a friend, and we got all this shopping, and then we come out the shop, and it's bucketing down with rain. We're thinking, well, we've got t-shirts on, shorts on. It's summer in Ibiza. Well, I pulled
yeah, I
out
get
these
that.
2 little plastic ponchos. I said, "There, here's one," and we
Yeah.
whacked them on.
I mean, there's a certain degree where, let's say, if it's extremely hot, yeah, you might enjoy it. But I mean, if it's not that hot out, you know, eventually it'll start to cool you down or whatever, right? Like, technically, it can rain in Las Vegas, LA, and other places in the world where it's actually hot, right? Even in the desert environment, technically, it could rain.
Yes, yes.
Rare.
In
It's
Greece,
more rare. It's more rare.
in
It's more
Greece, there
rare.
was
But
like this rain came down so much that there was like massive waves. It was a storm hitting
mhm.
this Greek village, and my uncle. I remember all I remember was I was so small that I was with my uncle, but the weather was really bad by the coast. The trees were swaying over. The wind was really windy. It was raining. The waves, and all my uncle was worried about is the boats smashing against each other in like what would you call it, a harbour, or where the boats are by the
Yeah,
pier.
Harbor. Yeah.
And you know, I remember him picking me up because I was so small and I couldn't keep up with him. He just grabbed me under his arm and he just ran to the sort of where his boat was and just left me on the side near it safely. And and he was trying to save. He's trying to save his boat. He saved his boat, and then he's trying to save his pal's boat from smashing into the other guy's boat. You know, and it's yeah. I've been in storms like that, but I was safe.
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes, like I said earlier, right? I wrote down like the grid, fire, wind, and water. It's because these things will, if you really think about a lot of things that have to deal with that kind of stuff at times, one way or another, some sort of outcome, right? It doesn't matter if it's a hurricane, the grid will go down probably in that area. Tornado, twister, flooding, fire, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's an apartment or a forest fire, right? That kind of stuff kind of plays a part, right? Even even like what Bob says at times where they were sending fighters to the poles or whatever. Well, that's basically the same thing, right? It doesn't matter what caused it, but the outcome is still like causing these things, these more destructive things, right?
Yeah.
Which lead down to a road or grid down, right? Because everything starts to get affected, right? Flooding. Well, now you got a backwater backing up. Mixed water with contamination. Seawater is mixing with fresh water, right? Right. Look at some of those hurricanes where the floodwater rises so high, right?
Yeah.
The water itself it's mixed with a lot of stuff. Like your sawyer will have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
Even if you scooped it out, right? Even if you got a grill, yeah, it might make it better. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of contamination in there. And you probably don't even know what's really in there, really. You might be able to see a little, it's like, oh, I think there's some slick of oil on the top, you see debris walking through it, terrible smell, alright? Yeah, your filter might help, but you'll probably start clogging it fast. Because the contamination is really, really high.
Yeah,
That is in that clear water, right?
Yeah,
Under ideal conditions, alright? That kind of water you probably want to pre-filter as much as possible. Alright? That's why, that kind of whole 3 days without water. Hopefully you're not on day 2 or 3 yet on that, with that happening. Hopefully you're doing it on the first day, right? Because then you can give it time to settle out, pre-filter, do things to make it better so, you don't run into issues later on, right?
Yeah, contamination or free multivitamin. You make the call.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's like, if you need the water, you need the water, but, like, if you get a little bit more time still because, you're just slightly dehydrated. It's only been a full day without water, but if you're, like, really, like, suffering, well, I don't know, like, that's a judgment call you gotta make, right? I gotta make that. Only you guys, me, or whatever can make that judgment call of doing it or not without pre-filtering. If that's where you need the water, well, you need the water, right? So, but if you can wait a little bit longer and pre-filter it, try to make it a little bit better. Right. Stuff like that might help, especially in the long run of things.
Avoid getting Georgia on day 1. That's embarrassing. Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's just not something like that. It's like maybe like long-term effects later down the road or whatever, right? Trying to avoid that whenever possible, right?
Because certainly going to be the big one in.
Well, yeah.
So
I mean, that's why it's the core core part of the rules of 3, and on the survival list of priorities, usually it's quite high. 1 or 2 at times, right?
Well, for me, it's like number 1.
Yeah. I mean, it depends what's going on, right? I mean, sometimes shelter takes over.
You can go without food for weeks.
Well, it's possible. But even after a certain amount of time, you're going to start. It'll start to get weak. You're not get weak because you don't have any food energy into you.
It's true.
Yeah, right.
And then you find a little scrap, and then that keeps you going for the next few days, and then you might find another bit of scrap, and then that keeps you going for another few sort of days.
Yeah, it's up to 3 days without water, up to 3 weeks probably, right?
Yeah, depending.
You're not suffer through like dehydration headaches, heat exhaustion, being weak, well before that starts to happen, right? Then you'll be like, oh, right? That's just, the symptoms before it, well, yeah. That's why you want to be proactive whenever possible on like that day 1, right? Day 2 or whatever, right? Because I've been watching videos about this kind of stuff, right? And technically, some of them are AI generated. But I mean, aside from that, the knowledge itself, and and of course, I take it with a grain of salt, right? What they say, everything says, right? But like, because I've heard of homeless people saying this before. It's like, oh yeah, you can live weeks without food. Well, but you'll start getting weak within
very
3 to 4 or 5 days in or whatever, right? Yeah, you can last probably as long as that, but you'll be suffering a lot more before that starts happening. Before week 2, week 30, you'll be like, you won't even be doing anything. You'll be so weak.
I even say to people from now, it doesn't matter if you're a little bit overweight now. I mean, as a kind of prepping thing, you've got a little bit of storage there. So.
Well, I mean, that's a hit.
I'm not saying become obese or anything like that, but I mean, people seem to
slightly.
You don't have to just be skinny or I mean,
that's the trade-off.
In these uncertain times, it might make sense to have a little bit of extra sort of fat, extra bit of food stored in your belly. You never know if something happens in the shops. I mean, people fighting over toilet paper. I mean, come on, you don't.
Like I said, like I said earlier, right? I didn't even find out about that until I went online to see it, right? Like I know Bob said he saw in person, but I'm like, I didn't even realize until it was a thing. Then I started seeing this from my friends posting stuff, like real friends that I know in real life, right? I was just like seeing this. I was just, is this an actual
paper
thing?
Gang?
Is this a thing?
Toilet paper East Side Gang.
I think it was like on a Monday after the weekend, right? I just watched a whole bunch of streams over the weekend. I think it was including Shadow's stream or some other people. I think it was Gil and some other people at that time in 2020. I was like, is this actually fake? Because I see it like posts and people writing like on another social media that I'm not using right now. But I was just like, is this a thing, right? I just like, because there was like, do you know where to go? Oh, I heard there's some over here. And I was just like,
is it possible that toilet paper can utterly run out? Like, I mean, could that...
No, because I was just like, I look at my support.
Shadow?
Yeah.
Toilet paper completely run out on planet Earth?
Yeah.
Toilet paper has become so rare.
I always, like, wish I had, like, a sufficient supply of it anyways, right? I wouldn't say abundant or whatever, but I was just like, that was like the least of my concerns. Right? I take a look at my stash and I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm still good. All right. I still had some, when I was like, during that 2020 time, I was just like, oh yeah, I still got some from like late 2018, 2019, right? I'm still good. Because I'm just like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just wait. I'll just wait. I have a buffer supply, right?
It got to a point where there was people literally selling one roll for £1.
Oh my gosh, the damn it, what's the word? Price gouging, yeah, of it at times. I looked online, I'm like, dang. All right.
Even for like things like cheap face masks, like 50p, like, and they're not even they're not even FFP sort of 2. They're not even FF, let alone FFP2. They're not even. They're being sold for like £5, £10. A 50p face mask.
If you think about anything like that, you expect this eventually in time to see some sort of price gouging of some sort.
Yeah.
Of some sort. You're not going to be able to dodge that.
People like that shouldn't even be allowed to operate. I think after sort of pandemics, they should be sort of like the same way they chase someone who stole a donut, but there was no police around to catch him, but he was caught on surveillance camera, and they went round to see him 2 months later. Knock knock. Hi. Yeah, it's the police. Hi. What do you want? Yeah, you stole a donut 2 months ago. You're under arrest. I mean, people getting.
Yeah, I mean, like there's these stories about like a big, well, probably not a shipping container size, but a huge like room size full of hand sanitizer. Someone was price gouging, and they got busted for that. They got busted for that, right? They
What
got
you got
busted
in the
for. If I
box?
remember right, it's been a while.
Hand
It's been like
sanitizer.
5 years, but I'm like, yeah, right. I'm just like. See, in the preparedness community, preparedness community, generally speaking, right, our people were saying other things. I know Tuck said
Hey,
the bidet.
Venerable, good to see you.
You know, like our options like bidet, soap, washcloth, rags, right, and stuff like that as our options, right? Because some people, you know, they were less prepared or whatever, right, and they're looking for it and couldn't find any, right? So, given those options out there, right, diverse options, are options to consider, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just like, you know, not everyone was made of money at that time. Well, no one's made out of money, but you know, like I even offered like rent people I knew personally a rule. You know, it was a sign of good faith to that, right? Because they offered me something, I saw. I'm like, oh, here's a role, right? You know, I'm not gonna hoard this, right? I could spare it, right? That kind of thing, right? You know, but like
Hey,
I've heard the stories out there where
have you
people,
got any more? And someone
no,
hears you,
no,
and they're thinking,
wait.
what's he on about? You got any more? You give me some.
Okay,
last time.
I had a friend that like they bought like a 24 30 pack or whatever. They're like, oh, should I get more CR? I'm like,
Hey, I got a 30-pack.
yeah. They're like, should I get more? I'm like, yeah, it's on sale or whatever. But I told them like, you know, you gotta eat for it to be useful, right? You know what I mean? You
Edible
know,
toilet paper.
let's not start on that kind of fiber. It's the wrong kind of fiber.
Rice paper.
No, not that kind of fiber.
You know, but then stuff like that, right? I mean, like, you know, I was like I said, I was like telling my friend, I'm like, you gotta eat for it to be useful too, right? Because if you look in a lot of the preparedness community in general, overall, right, it's people don't just have an abundant, like where the circle is that big for like toilet paper, right? They also realize they have to have these other overlapping circles like food, water, security, first aid, blah, blah, that kind of stuff, right? Because if that circle of food is so small, then well, it doesn't matter how much TB you have. You won't be using it fast enough, anyways, because you got enough to put back out, too. Yeah, I just said that, but yeah, it's true though, right? It's just like because I always talk about balance, like more and more on my channel lately. It's because preparedness is like that too. You got to find that balance, right? It's just like I guess Mark would even say something like, he's got the freeze dry stuff. Well, he needs the water to go with it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, if you got a bunch of rice and beans, well, you're gonna need the water to go with it to cook it, right? Stuff like that. So that kind of balance of it, right? It don't matter if you got 10,000 tons of rice and beans. If you only have 1 liter of water, well, you only have 1 liter. You only have one serving of rice and beans. It don't matter, right? You still need, you know what I mean? That kind of thing, right? Because you'll be limited by like the smallest circle. In this case, would be water, right? You know what I mean?
The stuff that you get like chickpeas and then you got water in it. Is it possible to boil the same stuff and in the same water?
Well, that water in those cans. I mean, let's just say it's soaked in it, or should be clean water, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because like for what it is, right? Like if corn comes in water, well, depending on the situation, try not to waste that water. Because sometimes there's like corn in water or whatever, like a sauce or whatever, right? Well, don't waste it. There's still some water in there.
You could make that
like even it's got
from salt water.
Yeah. It is possible for that, right? I mean, I haven't seen it in person. I haven't seen much videos on it, but I've seen it from some of the bigger channels, right? Obviously, that's a piece of technology, though, right? That's electric, right?
Yeah.
But providing you can power it, well, and get the salt to run it, you can, disinfect water, right? Like even like what he said in the video, right? You'll still have to want to pre-filter it. It's not to remove chemicals or pesticides, right? It's not to make the water, taste better, right? Or whatever, right?
But talking about
Or
this stuff
remove
as
salt. Well, yeah.
It's reminding me of certain tribes in some countries where they all sort of chew on the same stuff and they all mix up their saliva. I wonder if they got that from harsh times in their sort of their experience in life where it was a matter of survival that they all sort of put all their sort of drops of water together, or
I don't know.
And then survive by drinking this stuff, sharing it. Not advising people start drinking each other's
but
saliva, or juice. But
at times, sometimes you have to combine your resources together. It's like, if it's cold out or whatever, let's just say in this scenario, right? Like, I always talk about the I Shouldn't Be Alive show, right? That's on the Wonder channel. You're on YouTube, right? That they show episodes, right? There's episodes where, I mean, remember, these are reenactments and all that stuff, but, just hearing it out. But sometimes it's during the wintertime and they're, like, stuck in a truck, right? And, they're literally, like, sharing resources, or, like, if they could spare it, and trying to stay together, right? Because, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that is, you might have to dip into that kind of, where you're combining your collective heat to raise the temperature. So everyone can warm up through collective or mutual heat. I'm not talking about that other thing that uses a utensil word with an ing at the end. I'm not talking about that, but I mean, like,
penguins do it.
Yeah, but penguins do it in Antarctica, right? They actually they'll exchange from the inside out, right? Because it's a group survival thing, right? Because they know the safety in numbers, right? Because collectively they're making, where it's combined together to make it through, right? And just do something like that, right?
It's amazing. You see the guys right in the center, and they're lovely. They're really warm. Then you've got the guys on the right, on the outside. They're like, oh, I've got the outside tonight. Oh gosh,
Yeah, right.
Oh no.
Like there was, I have the story too, where I was like ice fishing with friends. It was like kind of snowing out and cold, like -30, -22 Fahrenheit for you guys in the US, right? Our shelter, like there was a truck, right? But it's basically an ice box, right? If the heater's not on, right? My friend had a shelter, but only 3 of us could fit inside comfortably, right? So we're exchanging back and forth, right? Because technically we can all fit in there, but not very comfortably, right? So I'm like, okay, here, I'll stay on the outside for a little bit. I'll tough it out a little bit here, kind of deal, right? But I also made sure I had passive warming things like clothing, blah blah blah, all that stuff, right? So like, yeah, and all that stuff. So we were doing that kind of stuff, right? I'm like, yep, I learned that. I'm like, yeah, this is what the penguins do, right? I think I told my friend that, I'm like, this is what the penguins do in Arctic. They have to sometimes huddle together, right, collectively, right? Someone has to take the brunt of the wind, the harshness of the wind, at times take the hit for the group, right?
You see like group protection. Even elephants do it with the babies. Got, for protection. Okay, it's not the same thing as the cold weather, but it's the group protection of get around. Buffaloes might sort of do group protection, but for weather protection, that's I wonder if there are any other animals that kind of.
There probably is.
Puppies
probably is out there.
Or dogs maybe.
There probably is. There probably is out there. I wouldn't be surprised.
Bears and their cubs.
Yeah, I mean, like even like maternal instincts like that, right? And just like you see, I'll relate this back to another episode of that show where these skiers got lost because blackout off trail, whatever, right? Dad and son, right? And they're like the dad's like helping warm up his son's feet underneath his armpit. I mean, like I've had to do that before. I've had frostbite on my hands, and I was like, you know, I use my friend's armpit. I'm like, yeah, yeah. Well,
and you never lost no limbs, thank God.
No, it was very mild, right? But the thing is, that tingly, biting sensation still there, right? It's not frosted. Yeah. It's definitely mild. It's not that kind of more extreme, right? Like, but it hurts, right? I'm just like, I'm like, right? I mean, I put them underneath their armpit. I mean, they're wearing clothes and a shirt, but you know, I didn't direct skin to skin contact, but I'm like, yeah. But it helped me like not complain about it anymore, right? I'm just like, and no one judged me because it's like 30 below out. You know what I mean? Give me 1 sec.
Sure. Hey, Shadow,
okay.
if you know whatever time you want to go to, if I don't want to keep you. Are you coming back, CR? Did he say he's coming back?
Yeah, he is coming back. But I think I'm gonna not run for much longer. Actually, I'm floating away here.
You're working tomorrow?
No, I'm on vacation, but I'm floating away, and
yeah.
And I begin to be pretty tired now. So,
oh yeah, the real. Maybe I'll talk to you again on the backstage. I don't talk to you enough, anyways.
Yeah, we'll catch up as well soon.
Besides, I begin to get some headache too again.
I'll have to get. Are you on WhatsApp? I'll get your WhatsApp number from. I'm sure I've got your WhatsApp number. I've got your phone number. I'll double check it with Shadow.
Yeah. No, I've never. I don't have that. I've only talked to you through like
YouTube,
yeah. That's why I want to take advantage of some of this time.
Like Thomas from
yeah.
Okay.
I figured now would be a good time. Well, because we're already talking, right? So
yeah,
and I do want to talk to you after.
Well, I wanted to ask you if you could do a video on.
I agree,
making a what do you call it? Improvised kind of milk bank with a pair.
Well, we'll talk about it on the backstage. We'll talk about this in the backstage after the stream ends. Yeah, because I think Shadow actually wants to stop now.
Yeah, I'm gonna get off now as well. I'm gonna be getting off now as well.
Oh, what?
Up again. No, sorry.
I thought I had time right now. I had time.
No.
I like 10 minutes right now.
I'm gonna get off as well. Sunday, Monday tomorrow.
See what happened? It's Sunday. Everyone forgot it's not Saturday. I'm just like, okay, it's Sunday, not Saturday.
Even yesterday, I was actually a day sort of in front. I was contacting Shadow yesterday.
Yeah.
Shadow, can you send me a link and he's like,
tomorrow.
Yeah, it's on. Yeah.
Tomorrow. What?
He already told me. But that's the funny thing. He already sort of told me, and then I forgot that he told me. So weird. Like,
I got you.
I've got to start getting ready for 7.
Anyway. And then your work, it's like, where's the stream? I don't see it.
Yeah. I was like, I got there. I was like, Anyway.
And we'll let him say his thing here.
Yep, sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, Shadow.
Thank you guys for stopping by. I appreciate it. I wrap things up now. And I will see you next Saturday, not Sunday, Saturday, as usual.
Take care, everyone.
Same time, same channel. Take care, stay safe.
Different day.
God bless.
God bless you all.
Don't
Good night.
forget, be part of the solution, not the problem.
Stay proactive.
Strength and honor.